will be live in just 1 second. Hold on. Getting live. Hold on. Let's get going. We're gonna get going. Hang on there. Hello. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Boy, oh boy. Okay, here we go. Hold on. Hi, just a ponytail. Relax. I like, can we just spread the word in case anybody goes, oh, haircut? Anytime I have my hair back, especially when I'm doing sketches for Sexy Liberal, which is this weekend, and I'm on a deadline and all those wonderful things. And hello and welcome to the show. How are you guys? Well, let's see. We are living in Joe Biden's America. And so far, it is almost nothing like what Trump warned us about. There are clearly some residual aspects of his warning, actions set in motion during his presidency that somehow are already Biden's fault, which is fun, right? Yes, I do have wig head today. I mean, and the number of wigs I've been going through in the last day, and I still have 5 more to do tonight. It's going to be nuts. I just pulled off the wig cap. I got one of those hairnet wig caps because of my tail. And it's a lot. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Steve Roberts says, hi, here, but gaming. I'm still watching. That's how it should be at this point. Don't worry. We'll have plenty of stuff to cover. We're all going to be locked down for a little while longer. And there's obviously, especially as we try to get a handle on the pandemic and saner heads prevail in charge, as far as being in charge of things, it's very reassuring. But we're still going to be dealing with this stuff for a while. So if you want to watch the show with your feet up, leave it on another channel or not watch it at all for a time being, I feel like you'll be missing out. But I'm okay with that as long as you're okay, because that's the whole point of the show. So whatever makes you okay right now, that's cool. That's what's cool. That's what's cool. And so I'm glad you guys could join me today. There's obviously plenty of insanity as we have already moved into it's all Joe Biden's fault. Those of you that follow me on Twitter, you know that I'm holding back in my own inimitable way, as best I can, about the faux-aggressive crowd. But they all the ones who are already on, Joe Biden's going to be a disappointment. It's all going wrong. These are all these people, this is all corporate debs, establishment, just all these buzzwords, and completely unaware that they are just the Trumpian version of what they allege is the left. It's the same. You're the same people. You're the same people. That, the minute they're I think Biden had been in office for a full-on hour, and people were using that phrase, we got to hold his feet to the fire. I would like you to ruminate on that idea, if you would. We need to hold his feet to the fire. Oh, do you now? Do you now? You need to hold his feet to the fire. So a medieval torture metaphor is the best way to describe how you deal with someone who's on your side. Say what you will about the Spanish Inquisition, and nobody expected them. Their chief weapon is surprise. Surprise and fear, too. But they tended to only hold people's feet to the fire that they were trying to forcibly convert before they killed them. It's adorable, really. And especially people who are we're going to hold his feet to the fire. It's amazing how the people who never have your back always want to hold your feet to the fire. You know what I mean? It's adorable. Not to mention a bunch of these goons that are like, we now have our demands. You're like, your demands. You were in the out group. You were catered to. You were given more air than you earned. And now you have demands, do you? You know who also has demands? Monarchs, theocrats, and dictators. Maybe some suggestions and plans first. I'm just saying. I'm sure demands are a good idea when everyone has ignored the fire in the kitchen and you can't put it out by yourself. I demand someone call 911. That's all right. That's reasonable. I'll live with you on that. But the rest, anybody else who's like, we need to immediately demand that this, that like, even the fact they are talking like that right after Trump leaves, when they participated in installing this asshole, is hysterical and disgusting. Equally hideous and awful. P.S. The Qs are losing their frigging minds. And I mean, we knew they would. Let's not, Cologne? Yeah, most people say Cologne, Germany. It's Cologne. Yeah, we were there. I've got a lock on the bridge there that my girlfriend and I put there. Yes, exactly, precisely like Chinkanana. But I mean, there's tons of it on Twitter as well. That's where I see the vast majority of it. But the important thing is that as much as there might be wailing and gnashing of teeth about this, I'm just here to tell you, not only do I not take any of them seriously because of the very nature of their behavior and demands over the last 4 years and their utter unreliability as both a voting bloc and a support mechanism, and God knows it's not like they're a gold mine of ideas. The retweet brigade is coming for me. Good Lord. Yeah, my hair's in a ponytail because I had to. I'm wigging up today. They need to know this. They need to know that not only am I not afraid of their ire, I'm also not angry or enraged. They often seem to think that there's anger and rage in this because that's one of, I guess, 3 emotions they understand. What they're really seeing from me is not rage and anger because I believe those are functional emotions that have a purpose, and if you're ever outside that, you steer clear of them. What they're feeling really is disdain and disgust. That's really what it is. But can someone, and this might be a little quiet, so I might have to turn myself down and the video up. But we've been kind of on Roseanne track lately with her little videos. Well, she hasn't had a video up, like a long form, since the inauguration. Well, in a week, basically, since it was over in a lot of ways. Like, basically 4 days after the Capitol, it all just dried up. But can I just show you? This is 5 minutes, so it's not a long one. Look at the title of this one. Roseanne, come on. Visionaries are deplorable to Joe establishment. Visionaries. That's the problem. It's not that she's palling around with lunatics who couldn't find their ass with both hands and often will try to eat by tying forks to their elbows. It's the Joe establishment that makes them deplorable, because we're going to keep the Trump term. Is that what we're doing? And their problem is they're just visionaries. Because Kristen W., it's not that she's a grifter and a sociopath and makes shit up and drags Roseanne around by her nose with all kinds of ridiculous Q conspiracies. It's not that. That's not what's wrong. What's wrong, apparently, is that she's visionary. She's the visionary. So, okay. Wait, is someone practicing the trombone in the background? Nope, saxophone. That's a sax. Somebody's practicing the saxophone in the background.
What does this say?
It says Baltimore. I will take it under advisement that the R and the E are there. It's your shirt. You put it on. What does it say, Roseanne?
Does this say Pottery Barn?
It does not say Pottery Barn. Why are you on the air? Check. Why are you checking what your shirt says while you're live streaming a bit? But it's not Potter. I can't with the pottery. All right. Hi.
Baltimore. Oh, Baltimore.
Oh, Baltimore. Why are you whispering? Did you promise not to make loud videos during saxophone practice?
Yeah, that's where Johnny's from. I love Baltimore too. It's a cool place.
I agree.
Love that Kimberly Klasick. She probably won too, but they cheated her out.
I love that Kimberly Klasick. She probably won too, but they cheated her out of what?
Because she's a visionary thinker, and that ain't allowed in this country.
No, visionary thinkers aren't allowed. That's why we have the first trans deputy secretary of Health and Human Services. It's why we have the first Black and South Asian and female vice president. It's why Biden just signed 26 executive orders, including dealing with climate change. Because vision, that's what's really there. That's what they're against, is visionary.
That whole Pizzagate.
Well, hold on. Why are you jumping to that one? What's happening?
Country, hell no, not for a woman, and not for a woman who's a member of a subgroup.
What? Wait a minute. We don't allow visionaries, especially women who are part of a subgroup. A subgroup. Oh, you mean like I know what you mean. You mean like Subway, where like 9 sandwiches, 10th one's free? That kind of a subgroup, or does she not know? Has she not looked at the cabinet? What's the visionary part? I'm sorry. We're just not letting women who are lunatics in. Because apparently maybe that's what she means, Eve. Yipes. A subgroup.
Thing.
That's cute.
Oh, quit it. I don't know why it plays the other video.
Read non-white, non-wasp, non-rural.
Read non-white, non-wasp. I'm just going to go with somebody didn't watch the inauguration. Just didn't watch it.
Ruling class, non-elite, but heavy on the wasp.
But heavy on the wasp.
Caste system in America.
The WASP caste system. Oh, you mean like the glass ceiling that stops like women of color from achieving national oh.
But it is getting more visible, but
Now they've moved to piano. I think there's a whole quartet setting up. Basically, Roseanne is complaining about how WASPs have taken over and women have no power, while she has a live quartet warming up in her living room for an afternoon performance in Hawaii at her house, which cost millions. And you what?
they're doing all they can to keep that from happening, calling it.
They're doing all they can. I don't know if all they can would involve making a black woman vice president to the oldest president in history. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, that wouldn't be, I think there would be several ripcords before we got to that point.
Race when it's really class, that's their big trick.
Oh, it's race when it's really class. Because because I don't know if you know this, but Kamala Harris grew up rich, part of the elite her whole life, bootstrapping. What I mean, it's not like she was. Her parents were wealthy and sent her to Harvard and Princeton like Ted Cruz. She's clearly Illuminati.
But
Get to it.
even that's winding bare when you see the leaders of the revolution.
Winding Bear, by the way, if you don't know, is Q's Indian name. Because his naked lies and he's winding people up, winding bear. I guess that's where it came from.
Revolutionary movement are all just a bunch of privileged, spoilt, middle class motherfuckers.
I feel seen. I mean, I don't qualify as middle class, but because well, look up Peaksville, Kentucky. Get back to me.
Bougies. I don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Bougies. Yeah. It's, these bougies who are always culturally appropriating phrases from black women that they saw on Real Housewives.
Except that, money they're putting in their pocket to buy the things they're addicted to because they ain't got no moral compass or integrity or any of that shit. Like,
I mean, she lost me on that one. No, I don't know.
Visionaries have.
Visionaries have drugs? What are you talking about?
People they despise, the people they consider to be subhuman.
Subhuman. You were right. Good call in the chat room, by the way. Good call. She said subgroup earlier. She went straight to subhuman now.
Despicable.
And seen.
Subclass of humans that they can target, turn all their hate on. Because
wait, are they subhuman or are they subclass of human? Are they still human? I mean, are we talking about the Morlocks or are we not? We're just going to leave that right there?
They are Nazis and fascists and racists. Don't care what color they are. That's how they think.
Yeah, I think the worst kind of Nazis are the black ones, probably. Yeah. Don't get me started on the Nazi Sammy Davis Jr. lookalike. That's the worst, isn't it? Black, looks like a famous Jewish performer. Just, and a Nazi. I don't even know how you cope.
You gotta have a targeted group.
I agree. Are we going to pick a new one? What's the targeted group? I got one. I have an idea. Roseanne, pick me. I have an idea. Violent seditionists who wanted the VP's brains splattered all over the Capitol. That would be, how about those? How about them for like the marginalized group Olympics? We let some people in that have been marginalized for a long time through no fault of their own because of inborn characteristics. And we marginalize tiki torch, khaki Nazis saying Jews will not replace us. How about that? Honest to God, it's like the opposite of Indiana Jones, where we swap out we throw out the bag of sand and put the golden idol where it's supposed to be. You know what I mean? Like,
that's Q? Yeah. Okay.
Oh, quit it. By the way, that I know why it's playing. It's her page. When I push the play button on the other thing, it plays the Scott Baio video, which you do not want to see. By the way, the random saxophone notes are kind of adorable. We're close. We're very, very close to a straight on, you know what I mean? Like, it's the most musical version of that. Why are you staring at me, Roseanne? Seriously.
Because they're the gatekeepers.
The gatekeepers. I'm the Keymaster. Vince Clortho, Keymaster of Gozer. Volga Sildorada, Lord of the Sebalia. Are you the gatekeeper? Hey, he pulls the wagon, I make the deals, buddy. What an asshole.
Getting a little bit of extra soup on their tray.
Extra what? Extra, I'm sorry. Extra soup, is it?
Getting a little bit of extra soup on their tray.
Getting a little extra soup on their tree. Tray? Tree. I think it was tree. I'm pretty sure it was tree. Extra soup. Okay.
They're the enemies.
Well, yeah, anybody who puts soup on a tree is the enemy. I mean, imagine all those scalded tree huggers now that smell like soup.
Like I told you about Hanukkah, how did they win?
Yeah, you did? What did you tell us about? How did they win with Hanukkah? What?
They went for the colluder. They got rid of the colluder. The colluder, the middle part, the middleman. That's where all the corruption happens.
In Hanukkah? I'm sorry, I beg your pardon. I might not be familiar as I must be with the holiday of Hanukkah. I recognize that, Santa, integral part of the Christian mythology, a pagan character, of course, and a lover of children who was brought in on the story and, conveys a sort of the overarching love of God by presenting a saint that will care for the children and make sure that they behave so they grow up to become, functioning adults. But I was not, is there a, and I know the Tooth Fairy and the Easter Bunny, I understand those, both also pagan characters absorbed by the Abrahamic religions as they moved into Europe in the 14th century. The question I have, if I may, is there a Hanukkah? Is there a colluder that comes down the chimney on a particular night of Hanukkah?
No.
Well, shit. No. Okay. Crap. No.
That's how you stop. That's how you win a revolution.
Yeah. If you're trying to win the revolution of Hanukkah, stop the colluder from coming down the chimney and eating your visionary cookies. Jesus Christ. I'm starting to get lightheaded.
That's how you overcome.
Is it? We shall over... I remember the old Jewish spiritual, we shall overcome. They sing it on the 5th night of Hanukkah while the colluder is stuck in the chimney.
Got to get rid of your own personal bad leaders. No community should have leaders. It should have a tribunal of grandmothers that represent each community and represent them like with integrity.
I see. Okay, so Roseanne comes out in support of Nancy Pelosi, I guess is just what we watched in her own way. And that there should, instead of electing a president this time, we should have just had a circle of Nancy Pelosi's. Is this where we're going? Yeah, I know, Alan. Good God.
For their concerns and the concerns of their family, particularly the children of that family and of that community extended.
Oh, you mean like when Hillary Clinton got S-chip through, like worked to get S-chip done, and that part is that? Are we? Sorry. That's not what you mean?
Family. And all the things the public should have access to for funding to pursue their constitutional rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yeah, none of those are... look, I don't want to be too right of center here, Roseanne, but and I don't want... I don't know how Trumpers or Republicans or people who envision themselves as conservative think about this, but in terms of rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, That's not a funding issue. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is sort of the left alone to seek those things for yourself. But if you're on all of a sudden some sort of big Medicare for all kick, I mean, there's a huge group to welcome you with open arms. Give it a shot. There 37,000 people have watched this video, by the way. And it's got almost 5,000 likes.
Y'all ain't smart. None of you are
Okay, listen. No reason to hit above the belt, Roseanne. Collar.
smart.
No? Nobody?
Nothing comes in. Nothing gets in there. That's weird. You're just on. You're just on.
Well, I know. I'm dense. I just don't get the vision. I obviously, it's probably because I didn't grow up celebrating Colluders Day during Hanukkah and not understanding that, I don't know, being so caught up in being a racist Nazi myself that I found myself voting for an Irish Catholic and a black South Asian woman for I don't know what came over me. I mean, I honestly, how would I? Because nothing gets in, apparently. Have you ever met Mike Lindell?
You got no free thoughts.
I have no of course not. My thoughts are expensive. I've crafted them into being interesting. And that's not true. I have plenty of free thoughts. That's what Twitter's for. Those don't cost anything. Matter of fact, these don't cost anything unless you want to help. I just put it out there, and then if people think they're worth, tipping or whatever, so it's not, they're kind of like, they're not free, but they're like, take a penny, leave a penny thoughts. Like a penny for your thoughts, or leave a thought penny. Pennies of thoughts. Maybe. I don't know what she's talking about. I have no free thoughts. Says the woman who has been corralled into a QAnon whirlpool of bullshit. There's got to be symbolism in the slow panning to see the lamp.
Take a minute.
Good. Do that.
Do something unexpected.
Sure.
Have a laugh.
It is good. Thanks. Normally I don't get permission to have one, but you know what I mean? And then you're supposed to throw things in the air, but I don't have any stuff around that won't break, so. I don't know. It's hard to laugh with all this pressure. It's like, it's like trying to pee at the same time everybody else is, That's it. Just ending on have a laugh. You having a laugh? Are you having a laugh? Is he having a laugh? I mean, this is the boil down at this point. And for the record, there are plenty. I mean, they basically only have one guest on all these shows. But it's Rudy and Mike Lindell right now. This is it. This is all they got on all these shows. And by the way, I'm pretty sure when I fast forwarded through this because we're not going to watch all this nonsense. I mean, we don't even need to. He's going to say the same stuff. He's been in the same dentist's office for 10 days. I don't know what the hell is going on. He's always there. And seriously, does anyone at least like move Steve Bannon away from the equipment and hose him down. You know what I mean? Like, Steve, seriously, my eyes are bleeding. The smell is wafting. Seriously, you smell like someone shit cigarette butts into threw a cat into a litter box filled with lemons. I don't know what that scent is, but it's a violation of the Geneva Convention. And there is no way that man is not carrying lice. It's just not possible. The only thing is that the interesting thing about the lice that Steve Bannon has is he's their home. So no one catches lice from Steve Bannon. Why would they leave? Oh, to Jim Morrison. Like the leather pants he wore every day for 2 years? Oh, really? Is there a parrot or a macaque out there or something that is yeah, he got pardoned for the federal stuff. It doesn't matter. They're going to get him on state shit. Don't worry about it. Yeah, no one has ever caught a disease from Steve Bannon. Not that he doesn't carry them. It's just that no disease would ever leave Fort Scabies. Shit. He's the commanding officer at Fort Scabies. Oh my God. I'm seriously like, and it looks like Mike Liddell can smell him right now. He's like, that is coming from the phone. That's horrible. Lieutenant Bannon reporting from Fort Scabies.
Walk through where you've really come from in life.
Oh boy, crack addict, met Trump, all's better now, and now I'm completely sane.
Well, I was an ex-addict. I was from everything
You were an ex-addict. Oh, you started using again. Well, okay, that's a slip.
from compulsive gambling to crack cocaine. And
Okay. All right. From it, I'm gonna guess you dual tracked. I'm gonna guess there was a crack gambling catamaran, and you were windsurfing that son of a bitch. That's what I'm guessing.
God set me free of that on January 16, 2009.
Oh, 2009. Oh, you mean when you ran out of money because of the crash? So see, there you go. There's your lesson, folks. Financial crashes save lives. I ran out of crack and gambling money.
And at that point, I invented Pillow in 2004. So I had these two tracks of, I was a very functioning addict for a while in the 80s and 90s, but then it turned into crack cocaine, and it started bringing me down. I pretty much had lost everything. And
all right, we're going to need somebody to make a chart of that timeline. Mapillo. Yeah, it was originally called Mapillo, right? Like my colleague. It was originally called Y'all Pillow, but it was just too hard for people to say without choking. Mapillo.
people were taking stuff from me, too. That was a lot of betrayal. And
What? People were betraying a rich crack addict with a gambling program? Problem? He needs a program. That's what I was thinking.
But when I came out of addiction, I'm going, what?
Oh, you came out. Oh, because, by the way, in terms of his languaging, for those of you that are concerned or aware, he didn't go through, I don't think, AA in that regard. I think he found Jesus and it was a magical cure, is what he's saying. So his argument is that through Jesus, he has left addiction behind. He's no longer an addict. Citation needed, but that's where the language is different from what you would hear from another addict, I'm guessing. I'm just saying he never shaved his mustache just in case there's a little bit of cocaine still in it.
What did I miss? I mean, I never thought politics had to do with anything in my life, and it didn't affect me. But I looked around me, and
it didn't. It doesn't have anything to do with your life. Your judgment is the kind of judgment that leads you to creating My Pillow in 2004 and within 5 years being a crack addict who's gambling all of your winnings away. And the only way that you can allegedly save yourself is to like glom onto some sort of psychotic evangelical faux Christianity of which you pay no attention to the behaviors taught by Christ and pretend to be Christian from that point forward, to the point where you hang out with, becomes best friends with, and not in an effort to convert, but to like spend time with Donald Trump.
My friends were losing their homes. There was a president giving money to an evil empire. All these things had changed. I'm going, what's going on?
In 2009, there was a president giving money to an evil empire. He means the Iran deal, by the way.
On here. Well, in the summer of 2016, Donald Trump reached out to me when he was the candidate. He was the then candidate, Donald Trump. And
he went, you're an addict with shitty judgment and money. Want to help me?
In a private meeting in New York City on August 15, 2016. And
okay, all right, that's pretty specific. I mean, I will say this is useful testimony, marking that down for later.
When I met him, I walked in, it was just him and I. We talked about...
So there was no pussies to grab. He was just like, just two bros hoping a woman would wander by so you could just seize sections of her body without asking. That didn't happen. Maybe after. Maybe he's not even in the story yet. I'm sorry.
Bringing the jobs back, because I do make my pillow here. Right now I have 2,500 employees, and he says I want to bring the manufacturing back to the U.S. And I said, I used to be a crack cocaine addict, and I said I'm going to have this.
Yeah, I know. Did you bring any?
Platform to help addiction and get millions of people.
Carlene, I'm still trying to figure out what Roseanne was talking about.
People out of addiction. He said, I'll stop the drugs pouring in. But it was just an amazing conversation with him.
And I believed it because he wasn't black. See, because the president that was actually in office was doing all those things. But he was black, so So, can't we? Yeah, because right?
All the things he was going to do, and I thought, wow, he's going to be the greatest president ever. It was problem, solution, and
No politician ever speaks in broad platitudes. He said he was going to do something. He saw a problem, and he was going to do a thing, and it seemed like that would do it, even though it didn't and couldn't. Is it loud? Sorry. Is he super loud? Beg your pardon. Yeah. I'll cut the... Sorry if it's too loud.
And they all sounded great, and I go, wow, if he kept those promises, it would be amazing. But I went a lot of them that day, and they all said, he's a great leader. He's done something for me personally. He's a great boss, and I'm...
Yeah, because if they don't kiss his ass daily, they get fired or he releases compromise he has on them. He only hires people he's got dirt on. Ask Michael Cohen. Oh, yeah, awesome guy. Yeah. Did you meet Michael Cohen that day? Bet you did. Guarantee it. I guarantee it.
So I kind of validated everything that I had just seen. Well, I went back
by talking to his employees. Mike Lindell, why don't you just fly to China and ask everyone how they feel about Xi Jinping personally? I'm sure at that point, by the time you leave the country, 1 billion conversations later, you'll want Xi Jinping to be president of the United States. Am I right?
Back to my home state in Minnesota.
What? You're from Minnesota? Where the hell did you ever get that idea?
And I told all the press and the media that I was gonna, that I had a meeting with Donald Trump, and
they went, "Oh, you mean the guy who just bragged about grabbing women by the vagina and has 27 open rape investigations that he's been fighting off, and who just filed a defamation case against a woman who called him a rapist, and she has evidence and wants to depose him, and she had to fight that all during his presidency. And oh, you mean Jeffrey Epstein's pal? Yeah, I used to see him hang out with Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell all the time. The guy who was always on Howard Stern talking about his daughter's tits and his and having sex with his other daughter, and that guy, right? The guy who has 3 wives and loves the Bible but can't quote a verse, wouldn't dare tell you a single verse of the Bible that's special to him because he doesn't know any, and apparently is crushes Sudafed because they don't make Pervitin anymore. Am I missing anything? I might have left some stuff out.
And it was crickets. Nobody said anything. And then the attacks started coming. They called
you a nutcase.
me a racist. They called me everything. And
they didn't call you everything. I think they mostly called you a gullible sap. And I certainly think that the racist thing probably came after his Mexico comments. You seemed like you're down with how he phrased all that. You're good with that? Tell us about the Jews that won't replace us. Go ahead. Tell us about that, Mike.
well, I knew I was on the right path then, and I went all in. And that's where I.
Yeah, guys, if you're looking for a signpost in life that lets you know you're on the right path, it's when everybody suddenly stops talking to you and then everyone starts shouting at you that you're a racist. That's when you're like, I'm a visionary.
I realize now, after 4 years of battling the media and battling and fighting for this country and backing the greatest president that I believe that we've ever had,
Yeah, sorry. Steve's got to stop you there when you get to best president we've ever had, because Steve hung out with him a lot, and it gives him it gives him acid reflux when anybody says it. He likes the lie, but he can't do anything with it.
Mike, hang on.
Mike, yeah. If you say he's the greatest president ever, we get a strike on Rumble. So
hang on one second. I just want to go back and.
Back up to something you said earlier about these are 2 gems. These men.
Time for something, because I want to talk about building the company and what you've built and the employees.
Okay.
And get back to.
Yeah, go back to what you did before you became a crack addict and a gambling addict, during the time that you started listening to Rush Limbaugh a lot and taking his advice, who also said that drug users and abusers should get jail time and they should lock them up and throw away the key, and any common, inhumane phrases about addicts or whatever. And while he was, of course, having his cleaning lady bring 30,000 pain pills in illegally into the country stuff. Oh, and he also brought Viagra to the Dominican Republic when he was being a sex tourist down there. So, because you want to get your money's worth, I guess. You know what I mean?
To the Trump part of it. You said you had a moment, your life changed on 16 January 2009. Could you share with the audience what exactly that was, and how a guy who obviously started business but was a compulsive gambler, was a crack addict, was doing all this. What was that incident that changed your life?
Yeah. Steve is actually asking for advice, Mike. Like, literally, Steve Bannon's like, so can I go back to the part where you find yourself at rock bottom and you found a way out? Could you describe, can you write down like a 5-step plan for me?
Well, I knew if I waited one more day, my calling would be gone. My calling would be gone. I knew my pillow was just a platform for God, and that something big was going to happen. I had a big calling on my life, and
So you had this thought while you were on crack? or this was during a religious thing. Mike, I'm trying to help you out, and we're all trying to save Steve. That's why we're all here. That's what this intervention is all about, Mike. That's why we're having you call in from, I guess, the lobby of your Botox therapist's office or your dentist, or are you getting your mustache rearranged? I don't know what this space is, but you've been sitting in that room for 5 days straight. But can you please go? What was the lead? Is there a?
Even had the drug dealers do an intervention on me at one point, and I'll quickly tell that I was downtown Minneapolis and Minnesota.
Oh, this is gonna be good. In the 3rd precinct. Yeah, please go on.
There and staying down there, I had a warrant out for my arrest, which I was found innocent on later. But
which he admits he was actually guilty of. He was found innocent, or no. By the way, oh no, it wasn't. That was a lie. That was. I mean, I even let that slip by. It's not nobody's found innocent. You're found not guilty. They couldn't prove guilt. No one is ever found innocent. For the record, innocent is not the purview of the courts. They establish guilt, or they cannot establish guilt. They don't go, this person is innocent. Nobody walks out of there like, I shot a guy, but they couldn't find the gun, so I walked out of court. I'm a virgin again. Isn't that weird? They just declared me innocent. It's amazing. Like, I don't even remember how to crime. I was found innocent. Oh, it was fun.
I came out of the room. I'd been up for 2 weeks with no sleep. And I came out and they said, you're going to...
Said, something might have happened to your brain, and you might be, from this point forward, a gullible bastard with delusions of grandeur. Now, please put on your pants and come with us.
We're cutting you off. You've been up for 2 weeks and you're not buying any more crack. And I said...
Oh, God. This is a good story. He's in the lobby at WKRP. He's waiting to meet Jennifer. She promised him a lunch.
So what is this, an intervention? They said, call it what you want, Mike. And
call it what you want, but get the fuck out. You are scaring the other crack addicts. I mean, addiction's not a laughing matter, but his telling of it is. Do you understand?
2 of them left, and then one of them fell asleep by the time I was carpet farming for crack. And I went...
That is a great description. Not carpet bombing, carpet farming.
Down to the streets of Minneapolis, and I couldn't buy it anywhere. They had completely shut me out. I came back upstairs.
Hold on.
And here's what he said. And I even had the drug dealers do an intervention on me at one point. And
farming.
I'll quickly tell that. I was downtown Minneapolis and Minnesota there, and staying down there, I had a warrant out for my arrest, which I was found innocent on later. But I came out of the room. I'd been up for 2 weeks with no sleep. And I came out and they said, we're cutting you off. You've been up for 2 weeks and you're not buying any more crack. And I said, what is this, an intervention? They said, call it what you want, Mike. And 2 of them left, and then one of them fell asleep by the time I was carpet farming for crack. And
Sir, this is a Wendy's. 2 of them left, and one of them fell asleep. That's the problem with crack dealers. Just no work ethic. Quitters. No wonder they wanted you to quit.
I went down to the streets of Minneapolis, and I couldn't buy it anywhere. They had completely shut me out.
They were sold out of crack.
Came back upstairs, and here's what he said. He goes, you've been telling us for years that this My Pillow thing is just a platform for God, and you're going to come back sometime when you quit, and you're going to help us all out of this addiction world we're living in. And 2 of these guys are born-again Christians that work for me now. But so I had all that happen. But on January...
So they know where to get crack, is what you're saying.
2009, I prayed that I would be freed of the desire. I said, okay, God, I want to be freed of this desire, and I'll do this platform. Whatever you got lined for me, I'll give it all to you. And I woke up the next day, and the desire was gone. I've never looked back. I did go to a faith-based treatment center from our church.
Okay, so he went to rehab. But it was that single prayer where he wanted to be guided. And of course,
about 2 months later, and found out why I was an addict in the first place. But you know,
which was what? You like the taste?
those were great seeds that were planted there for me, and I ended up doing a full surrender to God, to Jesus on
Months later?
February 18, 2017.
Yeah, on 2017. Wait, what? Carpet Farming for Crack is my new band name. Sorry.
So God's played a huge role.
What? How did we jump ahead to after Trump was already president? So he's still using up to that point. So this guy is falling on and off the wagon, is what he's saying.
Role in where I'm at now, I give it all to God, as a matter of fact. But I'll tell you, from that point on,
No, you don't. You paid for buses to be wrapped with Stop the Steal, and you brought people to the Capitol, some of which stormed it and committed acts of violence and vandalism.
when I came out of addiction there, my pillow was just a little, my business was just a little blip on the radar.
Hang on, before I get to the thing, you're saying that it was your dealers or the guys getting you crack that were also addicts, you were so far gone and so over the top that they actually did the intervention.
Crack. Cup of crack.
For you to say, hey, you got to stop this or you're going to be gone. And two of those guys are now born again Christians and work with you?
Yes, that's right. And you got to realize that I would tell them this all the time, that you guys, I have this calling, and I said, and I would talk about the books in the Bible I read about when I was in jail. I would tell all my friends all the time, including the dealers.
I thought you were found innocent. Wait, what happened?
So I was like their hope. They really believed me. When I talked, I was so transparent.
That's because you had all the money.
All the time. I still am. And they really believed me. So I was like their hope.
Honest to God, I like the big piece of news out of this. I'm not watching any more of this horse shit. We've heard this whole story before. But this is brand new breaking news on Mike Lindell that, according to him, he was using as recently as 2017. And that's if he's not vacillating in and out. Yeah, I don't believe it at all either.
And Mike, if you can't get out of this, we need we need somebody to lead us out of this, so to speak. And
yeah, and you had money. You were a rich white dude crashing on their couch doing crack, and they're like, "Get out of my house, get a job, hire us." It was an intervention. It was a send off.
And it's right now I have this Lindell Recovery Network, and it's going to be this huge platform that's helping millions get out of addiction now.
You're
gonna be now.
Your prayers. I just want to make sure you had been a compulsive gambler. You were compulsive crack cocaine, all of it. And
yeah, let it go.
Through prayer.
I told you that a bunch.
That burning desire that it's so overwhelming to so many people in the nation, so many people throughout the world that just can't do it because of their own human willpower. You're saying that through prayer, that
Bannon, look, you're addicted to lice. Just deal. Learn to deal. Okay. By the way, there is, obviously, the key part in this, the one that has function, it's Lindell and Giuliani right now. We're not going to do all of Giuliani's because we don't need to anymore. He's not currently, I don't know if he is technically the president's lawyer. I guess we were going to find out.
Hello again.
Eek in this episode. By the way, he's back at the glory hole, which is good to know. There, no word on whether or not someone's gonna, poke through middle of the show, and he'll have to take care of business. But yeah.
And this is Rudy Giuliani with Rudy's
Yes, the ex-president's lair. Thank you very much. Yes.
Common Sense.
Well, you say President Clinton and President. I'm speaking of him like you speak of former presidents, just for the record.
Today we're going to talk about the subject that should be on our mind, and the subject we should have been talking about in much more detail for the last year, and certainly in the last 2 months since the election.
Your sanity, your criminal acts, you touching a woman on the ass that you thought was 15 years old and trying to take your penis out in a hotel room, and the movie that came with it. I can't believe, Rudy, that that came and went, no pun intended, as fast as it did. But I'm glad you're ready. We all need to have an intervention about your choice of orange face paint. You have less of it in your hair, or is that just the walnut background?
And when I say subject, I mean Biden's America. What's his view of America? Where is he going to take America? How is he going to change America? What are the policy areas that are going to be most affected?
Why weren't we talking about that? Why weren't we talking about what Biden wants to have as far as policy? Why on that? Why was that? What? Why would we not? What, Rudy? Why weren't we just? Oh, I remember. Because the president had hired you to lie about the election. That's why we didn't deal with real questions of policy. But please tell us what the policy issues will be. Because you wanted to talk about the fake laptop you bought in Ukraine for $5 million that they were selling for $3 million. What'd you do? Get a $1 million kickback? You want to sell it for $3 million. Let's say it was $5 million. I'll take $1 million. You get an extra $1 million. We'll stop at $4 million. How's it sound? Yeah? Or did you just buy it for $3 million and tell Trump it cost $5 million? In which case, I love you.
The dispute over the election, which still continues, right?
No, it doesn't. It does not continue. It's over. It was never on.
And the pandemic.
Did you just fart a car horn, Rudy?
And when I say subject, I mean Biden's America. What's his view of America? Where is he going to take America? How is he going to change America? What are the policy areas that are going to be most affected because of the dispute over the election, which still continues, right? And the and the pandemic before that. This was a
that was a car horn.
Very, very truncated, very strange presidential election. We saw only one debate.
We saw only one debate? Is that what happened? Is that how you remember it, Rudy? What, did they have 6, but we only saw one of them? What did they do, hide the other 5? Oh, wait.
Biden in a basement for most of the time.
We were all in COVID lockdown to try and save lives, dipshit. Trump at super spreader events murdering his own supporters, including Herman Cain. Trump
acting as president, really defining his policies very, very clearly, just in the actions that he was taking
Yeah, you had a little bit of shit in your eye.
As president. But Biden really more responding to the various wings of his party, the more powerful one being the far left. Or
I see. So that's how he beat Bernie in that last debate rather soundly, was by responding.
At least the more vocal one being the far left. So what I'm going to try to do is, I'm going to try
speak in coherent sentences and not shit your pants. That's all I ask.
To outline for you, from my perspective, what the major changes are going to be, and we'll put the emphasis in this particular episode on foreign policy. We'll mention some.
Yeah, don't deal with domestic policy, because then you have to get into how your client and best friend single-handedly is responsible for at least 3/4 of the already dead and another 100,000 to come because of his failed policies and his ignorance and his egotism and ridiculous. It's 15 cases.
Domestic policy. And then we'll do another episode within a short time on domestic
Yeah, don't make me wait too long, Rudy, for this.
policy, where I think actually there has been a little bit more discussion.
Don't say has been. It breaks your own heart.
Well, first of all, we're going to be a very, very different country. Biden's America will be very different than Trump's America.
This is true. We won't be as racist. We won't be as violent. We won't suck up to Putin. We won't gargle Kim Jong-un's balls. We won't think the world revolves around our tariff complaints with China. We'll also know that we never had a $500 billion trade deficit with China. We never did. It barely hit 400. And that Walmart is half of that. Let's see. Instead of the president bragging that he could shoot somebody in the middle of the street and get away with it and grab a woman by the vagina and they just let him because he's a star, we have a female vice president.
It begins with just sort of the overarching view of America. Trump had an overarching view of America. It was America.
It was America for whites and the rich. And the rich non-whites, you just kind of tolerate until you can get their money. I get it.
America first.
Yeah, the Klan's old phrase. Yeah, we know it. Yeah, it was the Klan used that phrase, and it was linked to Nazism in the 20th century. You know that. You were 60 then.
All issues, particularly foreign policy issues, were examined from the point of view as what's best for America, and then we'll work out what's best for you. And
Yeah, that's always been every president's plan. They just didn't name it after the Klan's phrase.
granted to others the same thing and said that's what I expect the leaders of other countries to be trying to do, to see what's best for England or what's best for France or what's best for Germany.
What's best for the Queen's underpants?
Or China or Russia or whatever, and then we'll negotiate from that point of view, but not deviate from the fact that we have to put America first, including particularly our workers who were sacrificed to maybe 30 or 40 years of unfortunate trade deals that gave away tens of millions of jobs and entire regions of our country.
Oh yeah, is that what they did? How'd that work out? Explain NAFTA to us, Rudy. Explain to us from an economic standpoint, which factories shut down and why the cost of production changed over time, which industries were affected and which industries weren't, why the loss of certain factories added into the percentages that you present aren't related to NAFTA at all. They weren't under that trade umbrella, certainly didn't end up going to China, just shut down permanently because what they made is no longer necessary or doesn't exist, and they weren't retooled because Republicans always, they don't like the retooling tax breaks, but we'll talk about that later. But explain to us, Rudy, don't just jump ahead. Don't just say we sacrificed tens of millions of jobs. Tell us where they went and how.
Probably that's the reason he was originally elected and the reason he ran.
No, the reason he was originally elected is because 78,000 people stayed home in 3 key states. He lost the popular vote twice.
Ran so strong in this election, and we have a dispute.
We don't have a dispute. He didn't run strong. He lost terribly. 7 million votes. Pitiful. Pitiful. He had more opportunity to get voters. And by the way, Republicans now know that they can open up the voting rolls and allow people to vote, and it may actually benefit them if they actually sell their policies well, but they're still not going to do it because they know their policies suck and they don't actually want to carry them out. But please continue.
America
What? By the way, America first. Yes, go back to the Klan says what?
first, therefore, is going to be replaced. Biden's actually said it that way. He's going to replace America first. Question.
Okay. He's going to replace America first. It's going to be replaced with the United States of communism, and everyone will eat a plate of gruel before going to the factory to make pharmaceuticals for no one because healthcare is a right. That's, I mean, obviously. Hold on 1 second. First, I'll just go Clinton. That'll do. Sorry. I'd like to show you something very, very quickly. Hold on. And here we go. And da-da-da. Was America First a slogan of the Ku Klux Klan? The white supremacist group made frequent use of the slogan, more recently embraced by Donald Trump, though they did not, at some complaint, invent it. No, they didn't start it. But boy, they kept it. Oh boy. President Trump's oft-repeated slogan, America First, was also a credo of white supremacist Ku Klux Klan organization. There we go. Yep, centerpiece of his inauguration. We saw that, whatever. There you go. Here's a Ku Klux Klan promise coin. Yeah. That would be a true statement. And by the way, he didn't invent it. Of course, Coolidge, Harding, and McKinley all used the catchphrase at one time or another to promote isolationism or protectionist foreign policy. And by the way, the alignment of isolationism and protectionist policies and the phrase America First have always gone hand in hand. There is no version of America First that also doesn't have a MAGA-like group associated with it, being the foot soldiers for it. Do you understand? Like, there's no... Whenever this comes up, it has a sidecar with it of racist groups feeling like they're getting their day and using this as their phrase as well. So when Coolidge and all those guys were using it, the Klan used it against the invisible empire. And now, when Trump came in, it was Boogaloo Boys and MAGA and all that kind of stuff using it. Yeah. Socialism is what defeats fascism. No, it isn't. That's not true at all. Honest to God. Like, literally, if you look at both the Soviet Union's form of fascism, ultimately, that it was absorbed into socialism of their own sort and became its own version of fascism on its way to allegedly wanting to seek communism at one point. It kind of ate its own tail. And in terms of course, the national socialist movement being the Nazis, it was, of course, a conglomeration of capitalist countries that fought it off. So, it's not even, it's sort of, it's more of like a correlation rather than causation thing. I think they can sidecar as much as they want. Eek, that's just terrible. Oh my gosh, these awful people. There he is.
The question is, if America isn't first, second, third.
Thanks, Rudy.
Fourth, fifth. Maybe we don't even get a number.
Like, seriously, he's just going straight Mr. Magoo.
If America's not first, and you're the...
It is. You just don't use the phrase because, A, if you're saying it, perhaps you aren't doing it. Perhaps you're using a phrase like America First to hide the fact that you're actually making shady deals under the table. Thank you, Benny Loco, for the super chat. Appreciate that. Thank you guys for the thumbs up and the thank you, Tamaram, for the gifted tier 1 sub to Scotty. Thank you very much for that. Thanks for the follows and thanks for joining us today. I haven't done any commercials at all. I've just been running like, I'm sorry. I should do that. Patreon.com/Hal Sparks. Feel like joining? Help us out. That would be great. Otherwise, you can give super chats. Venmo is up there. You can cheer if you're on Twitch, which is really fun and kind of one of the better ways of doing it as well. And if you can't because you're scared and we don't, and businesses and things are hard, don't worry about it. Just laugh and relax, and we'll get through this. I promise. Okay, here we go. Oh, Rudy.
The President of the
Rocky
United
Mountain
States
Mike.
of America. Who's first? Well, I mean, I think that's being a bit sarcastic. Let me see if I can actually answer that.
Is it being a bit sarcastic?
I think the answer comes really in a moment in a debate, 2004. I believe it was
Thanks, Richard.
the first one between John Kerry and George Bush. I believe this one answer lost the election for John Kerry. I do, and I thought at the time. Other people agree and disagree. John Kerry
What does this have to do with Biden's America? I'm curious. This will be fun.
was asked how he would react if he had to make a decision about America attacking in retaliation for some major attack on American interests, on America. I can't remember exactly the nature of the attack, but
Yeah, why would you remember the nature of the hypothetical when you're just going to judge what his answer was?
the answer was more memorable than the question. And the answer began with, I would first call up our allies and seek their advice. And then I'd meet with my cabinet, and then I'd talk to the United Nations. And by the time he was finished with the answer, America would have largely been gone.
I see. So in Rudy's mind, they asked him a 9/11 like question, and they were discussing, where, from his point of view, who would be in charge. Would you just jump right back into a war in Iraq? Was basically the question. If you were attacked on like a 9/11 kind of thing, what would you do? And instead of going, I'd find the nearest country that didn't do it, and I'd send as many bombs as possible, which is what Rudy liked and what George W. Bush said. And, and effectively we were like, Kerry was like, well, I'd get to the bottom of what happened, talk to our allies, seek their advice on what strategy they're doing, because we're not the only actors in the theater in that regard. And I would talk to my own staff and go, what do we know? What's our information? Rudy turned it into, the nukes are away, hallelujah, what do you do? Good God.
Whatever attack took place would have taken place already.
So you mean preemptive strike? Before you... So Rudy's problem is that the attack hasn't happened. He would consult people before a preemptive strike.
But beyond the
Realm of reality, but beyond all morality, for that matter. Tell me again about pro-life, Mr. First Strike, without asking one.
the slowness and the
Asking?
lack of
Cohesive thought on your part.
attention to getting something done quickly, which plagued the Obama administration and plagues a lot of Democratic administrations.
Oh, really? Sorry. What did Trump do swiftly that worked? On his own. I don't mean just like, there's a disease. Everybody start working on a vaccine. Do you actually think the advances in science that have occurred in the last 20 years, that if Trump on his watch had been president during the 1918 Spanish flu, there wouldn't have been 5 times the deaths?
Was the notion that we're no longer a sovereign country. I mean, the more usual
Yeah, we are. Just because he seeks the advice of them doesn't mean he takes it. He needs to see how they'll react as well. Mr. President, the missiles are away. Shit, phone's ringing. Hello? Crap. What? The French say they have soldiers in the area that are trying to extract some hostages. But the bombs have already been sent. We should have called them. Fuck it. Just hang up. Tell them the line went dead.
traditional answer would have
Thank you, Zoomer Blue. That's very nice of you. Appreciate it. That all rhymed.
been by, let's say, Abraham Lincoln or Teddy Roosevelt, even Franklin Roosevelt.
Yeah, any of the Roosevelts, really.
The answer would, or John Kennedy, certainly Ronald Reagan, the answer would have been, I'll figure out what's best for America. Then I'll tell our allies what I'm doing. This is time to take a short break.
Is it time? This is time to take a short break. Christ Almighty! No, we're not. How are we doing this nonsense? I can't. American gold, and I'm out to touch it, and it's free silver for $1,500. I don't know what's happening. Now let's go back to how I believe that if we were, I wouldn't ask anyone. I would just initiate a first strike. Honestly, like literally part of this conversation was him saying, like, Kerry's problem is that he would talk to his cabinet. What? Yeah. Mr. President, we have some information on the bomb. No, I don't hear it. Stiff arm. I saw the video on Twitter. Fire at will. Like,
So it's a different view of America, right?
yes, yeah, it's one that does not align with catchphrases used by the Ku Klux Klan to hide your shady bullshit Ukrainian energy deals, you seething slug and bifocals.
Decisions will be
Thanks,
made
Matt.
and we'll consider much
I hope our suits understand the true cost of war. Well, exactly. He doesn't.
wider.
I'll show Rudy's viewership numbers. He's got 3,200 rumbles, meaning that people plus or minus it, which is more like comments, and then 54,000 views. This is, by the way, because of, Rumble versus YouTube, this is a huge drop-off for him. They were in the 300,000s.
Counter interests.
Kath, how are you?
And very, very often when we do that, we lose focus on America and what's best for America. That's how we gave away so many jobs on the theory that, well, we were going to get lower priced items here in America. That would help our economy. But for the lower priced items, we were going to lose 2 million jobs.
Why would that be, Rudy? Why? Go further. Go further. You're almost there, Rudy. You're almost there to depressed wages. You're almost there to guaranteed minimum wage. You're almost there. You're almost there to $15, $20 minimum wage. You're almost there. You're almost there with minimum wage tracking with the cost of living. You're almost there with isolationism and protectionist trade policies because what?
Which ends up costing us more because we lose that from our tax base. Plus, not to mention the suffering
What?
that imposes on the million people and their families, or 2 million people and their families.
What? Rudy, tell me the Republican solution. Tell me the Republican solution for that. Because Trump just left saying he made thousands of factories. We had thousands. That's a quote. Thousands of factories opening all over the place.
That lose jobs, and these losses usually take place in regions. So you could go right throughout upstate New York, right across the Midwest, and I mean, I can show you industries destroyed by Joe Biden, Barack Obama.
Destroyed by Joe Biden and Barack Obama. You mean like the auto industry, which Trump didn't support the bailout of? Obama, the guy who went from state senator to president in less than 6 years while he was in office. Sorry, what did he do during Reagan that shifted it? I'm sorry, what part of NAFTA did he draft up allegedly?
Even some Republican presidents who made very unwise trade deals. Not just with
Oh yeah? Which ones? Which ones were those, Rudy? Get into the details. Come on, I know you like to give us an aerial view.
China. Those were the worst ones, but with other countries.
Were they? Those were the worst ones? So TPP sought to fix that and make sure that the other countries in the Asian trade region had a shot against China usurping all the manufacturing power, and Trump scuttled it. And then $17 million showed up in his bank account magically over there. That's weird.
The Trump approach under Peter Navarro was very, very different. It was, I'm going to
Yeah, it was totally different.
analyze this trade deal from the point of view of America. If it helps America, we do it. If it doesn't, we don't do it.
And by America, we mean Ivanka, because none of the products that she sells were inside the tariffs that were placed on China. So
it, and if they don't want to change it, the heck with them. And the basic core of it is the Democrat-Republican Internationalists defined.
The Democrat-Republican Internationalists. That's a new group. Look, we've got a new group, everyone. Thanks, Amy. We've got a brand new Illuminati New World Order phrase. What was that again, Rudy? The what are they called?
Was defined trade as free trade.
Sorry, what?
The Democrat-Republican Internationalists defined.
The Democrat-Republican Internationalists, yeah, Jews, right? Defined it as, yeah, because you can't say globalists because everybody's like, yeah.
Trade as free trade.
Oh, there was a super chat flyby? Beg your pardon. Who's? Thank you, Matt. I saw Matt's. Did I miss one in there? Oh, Jamie, there it is. This is me and my wife therapy. Thank you. Oh, well, thank you, Jamie. And, please check out Jason Charles Miller's version of Going Blind again today, because I'll sing it later. Yeah.
But free trade meant China had a 35% tariff on our goods, and we had none on China.
Yeah. Ask Walmart about that.
Maybe free trade for China. That's very costly trade for America. That's what you...
Yeah, that's... Yeah, by the way, the North America Free Trade Agreement was not with China. That was supposed to be a manufacturing sales mix between Canada and Mexico. It's basically the USMCA is just like patchwork version of NAFTA. What's going on with Pompeo in China? Currently, nothing. I mean, they just sanctioned him on the way out the door.
Unfair trade. And unfair, may I use the term, trumps free. Because unfair means we have no longer a steel industry. And tens of millions of people.
Trump Towers made with Chinese steel.
In Pennsylvania are out of work forever. We no longer have, pretty soon, we're no longer have fracking. That's going to destroy Pennsylvania and a lot of the middle of the country all over again.
Why? How much fracking do you think is part of the industry in Pennsylvania? Really?
So that's going to happen. Those
Matt Collins, the United States has two political parties that can run. Other countries have 20, some of them. I wonder why we don't have them. We also have a different structure of government as well. We're not parliamentary. There's a lot of reasons why you have all these. And one of the reasons is because we also don't have an argument about the formulation of a government once the leadership party, the role, like, see all of Netanyahu's back and forth over the last couple of years in Israel about forming a government, and they have to stop and form another government, stop and form another government. Yeah.
Those trade deals and those decisions made in a more international context, like about Iran, are going to happen, and America is not going to be first. America in various situations maybe last. Of course.
Behind who? Chad? South Africa? Eastern Mongolia? Where are we? What are we? How are you last? Last on what's the list, Rudy? How long is this list?
Of course, there'll be what I would regard as a hysterical climate change policy, even a stupid climate change policy. What do I say?
Well, then explain it to us, Rudy. A hysterical climate change policy. What's the policy, Rudy? Break it down for you. You got notes right there. Tell us what the policy is and recommend changes. I'm looking
hysterical and
Zimbabwe. You're right, Gigi, because it's alphabetical.
Stupid.
Gotcha.
Hysterical because it's reacting as if the world is going to end in 10 years. And if they were right, the world would have ended, I believe, according to Al Gore, who fortunately never became president. I think it was 2010. So we're on borrowed time, people.
I think that was in the peak oil part.
I mean, could end tomorrow if we go back to what Gore was predicting.
Because that's what Gore wanted to do. The only solution that I can come up with right now is if we just kill everybody and blow up the Earth. It's the only way to save the Earth from itself. It's a terrible algorithm.
About to get emblazoned in heat by 2010. What is it now? 2021, Al? You made a lot of money off that scam too, didn't you?
Do we want to go through the list of hottest summers on record? Warmest winters on record? Droughts, fires increasing, hurricanes increasing in strength. I mean, it's not quite fair because Rudy's an ignorant fool, but...
Nobody knows that, right? Nobody knows the millions you made off that one, huh? Well, in any
What millions? You mean because An Inconvenient Truth was a successful documentary?
event, the world's still here, and it's not going to end. Certainly not going to end because of the fact that the climate is changing. I'm not even sure.
Well, I know one thing. It's certainly not going to end because Trump has his thumb on the button.
I even know what climate change means anymore. I mean,
Well, I think we all know that, Rudy. We all know you never knew what it meant.
could be ridiculed as, yeah, we're now in winter and we're starting to move towards spring, and gosh, the climate's going to change, and it does. If you ask me, do I believe in climate change? I lived through it all my life, so I don't believe in it. I know it.
That's weather change. Seasonal change, the man is an idiot.
It's not like religion. I know it. There is climate change. Question is, hasn't that always been happening? How much does human activity, particularly the use of carbon, contribute to that vast, gigantic universe that...
Tell us, Rudy. Tell us whether it doesn't. By the way, while you're at it, explain to us why New York's death rate went down after lead gasoline shifted to unleaded gasoline, and they had smog checks in the city. Explain to us why asthma deaths went down. Why lung disease goes down when you have less pollution. Because I don't need this asshole to understand climate change. I mean, is there anything he truly understands? I mean, you've seen his legal briefs. We've gone through all this. I mean, his understanding of climate is slightly below his understanding of Wisconsin election law. But for the record, can we just, like, even for him, I don't need anybody on the right to believe in climate change as a concept. I don't think intellectually they're capable of grasping it because they're sociopathic in their interpersonal interactions. So why would they give a shit about the globe or even be able to process it, humanity as a whole? What I do think is obvious is if this dickhead it should be capable of grasping simple concepts like pollution.
Almost everything we do is like just a little speck.
Is that what you think? It's a speck? A speck.
It's like trying to...
Tell us. What's it like? Give us an analogy, Rudy. Let's hear it. I want to hear a good analogy. It's coming. I know it is.
It's probably harder than infecting the entire Atlantic and Pacific Ocean by whatever you put in it, because the ocean is so big, right?
Yeah, that's all right. You guys got that right. This is that's it. That wraps it up. Thanks, man. It's as hard as infecting the Atlantic or Pacific Ocean with whatever you put in it because it's so big. By the way, if you would like to see Rudy Giuliani live, he will be touring the country drinking out of toilets because the water looks clean to him.
But let's go.
If you ever stumble into a men's room and there's a guy in the urinal just splashing water out of the bottom into his face, and go, Rudy, what the fuck are you doing? And he'll go, it's clear. It looks like all the other water I've seen. Splash, splash.
Grant that carbon's not good. It's certainly not.
Well, Christ, what was that noise? You what?
Because the ocean is so big, right? But let's grant that carbon's not good. It's certainly not good for local environments. And why do I call it? It's a hysterical approach because they've got us believing the world's going to end. In fact,
it's an emerging problem. It's an emergency. Some would even call it an emerging problem. And so many people are doing it at once that unless everybody who can do something about it does something about it, the overall it will have a force accelerator, logarithmic growth.
in fact, if climate change does take place, the world would have to adapt rather than change. They'd be
Yeah, we should just live in a burned out wasteland because Rudy needs more orange spray.
more heat, if they're right, in certain places, which could be very bad, particularly with the ice caps. It would mean more flooding. We already have a lot of flooding, probably not much more than before. It costs a lot more because we now build in places where flooding occurs regularly, which is
That's what it is. Guys, it's really that we're building in places where flooding occurs regularly. It's not that new flooding is occurring regularly now in places we've been building for a long time because Jesus Christ.
probably not the most intelligent thing to do. And we build things that are a lot more
Yeah, that's really what the problem is. Yeah.
expensive than they were 100 years ago. So we'd have to change our policy, and we'd have to have more dams. They'd have to be more effective. We'd have to move out of certain
That's what it is. We don't have enough dams.
areas that are prone to flooding and use them for other things. And then we'd have to take advantage of the bright side, which would mean there'd be more food for the world if there was a warmer climate and a
Yeah, there would also be more bacteria and disease because along with that comes tropical diseases tend to expand during those, many of which, like Ebola, we don't have a natural immunity for. That's the future Rudy Giuliani wants. Giant apples, like, they're growing them in Jurassic Park or something, and more tropical diseases, which explains his fever dreams.
longer summer, let's say, throughout. So this is
Yeah, dudes, what are we trying to stop this for? That's right, Rudy. It's just never-ending summer, bruh.
a scientific problem. It's an intellectual problem. It's not a religion.
Yes, Rudy, you are an intellectual problem.
And it shouldn't be approached hysterically. In fact, very few things should be approached hysterically.
Nobody's approaching it hysterically. Actually, the people who are hysterical about it are the people trying to stop everyone from making incremental positive change. Literally. You've seen a bunch. I mean, obviously, he's thinking about what Greta Thunberg, and that's, his indication of how everybody feels about it. Have you seen these assholes scream about the Paris climate? Read Ted Cruz's tweet where he thinks the Paris Climate Accord is about Paris somehow, instead of that's just where they gathered. That's a hysterical tweet.
Made a terrible mistake approaching the pandemic hysterically. Maybe.
Sorry, what? Sorry, we approached the pandemic hysterically. That's what we did. I'm sorry. We were over it. You know what? If we'd have just believed Trump about it's 15, they're going to go to 1. No, there aren't any problem. If we'd have just done
Even
that.
worse a mistake is certain ones of us still approach it hysterically. It's a stupid approach because every agreement, this whole Paris agreement, is absurd. We would put severe limits on our use of, we'd eliminate coal, we'd pretty much eliminate oil, we'd pretty much eliminate.
Pretty much. Okay. To the parties to this agreement, being parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, hereinafter referred to as the Convention. It's the Paris Accord, so you'll have to forgive me. Pursuant to the Durban Platform for Enhanced Action established by Decision 1CP 117 of the Conference of the Parties to the Convention at its 17th session in pursuit of the objective of the Convention and being guided by its principles, including the principle of equity and common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities in the light of different national circumstances. Shit, well, we've just got a bailout in the third paragraph. You know, you notice this? So everything you're about to see, Rudy, everything you're about to see about, oh my God, the Paris Climate Accord. In pursuit of the objective of the convention, we're all trying to do this, we're all trying to meet these things, and being guided by its principles, including the principle of equity and common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities. Countries that can should, countries that can't don't have to. Until they can, we try to help everybody else along. It's a process. All right. And in the light of different national circumstances. So some people can stop oil, some others can't. We'll try to do this. Je parle français comme une vache espagnole. Parce que I will do this in English. Recognizing the need for an effective and progressive response to the urgent threat of climate change on the basis of the best available scientific knowledge. Also recognizing the specific needs and special circumstances of developing country parties, especially those that are particularly vulnerable to the adverse effects of climate change, as provided for in the convention, taking full account of the specific needs and special. We don't have to read the whole thing. Emphasizing the intrinsic relationship to climate change actions, recognizing the fundamental priorities. Acknowledging Article 1. Shall we get down to this? They're all doing this with this. What the name of the convention means. Party means the people who join. 2. This agreement is in enhancing the implementation of the convention, including its objective aims to strengthen the global response to the threat of climate change, holding the increase in the global average temperature to well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels and pursuing efforts to limit the temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. This is our goal. We're trying to keep this from the fish killing temperatures so that we all don't die of starvation. Now, recognizing that this would be significantly reduce the risks and impacts of some climate change. If we could do this, huh? Ha ha! Ah oui. Increasing the ability to adapt to the adverse effects of climate change and foster climate resilience and low greenhouse gas emissions. Making finance flows consistent with a pathway towards low greenhouse gas emissions and climate resilient development. So basically like loan guarantees for electric cars, shit like that. As nationally determined contributions to the global response to climate change, all parties are to undertake and communicate ambitious efforts as defined in Articles 4, 7, 9, 10, 11, and 13, with the view to achieve the purpose of this agreement. Okay, 4. Each party shall prepare, communicate, and maintain successive nationally determined contributions that it intends to achieve. Parties shall pursue domestic mitigation measures with the aim of achieving the objectives of such contributions. Support shall be provided to developing country parties for the implementation of this article. Developing country parties shall continue to take the lead. Wait, what? Developed country parties? Look at that. People who can versus people who can't. Continue taking the lead by undertaking economy-wide absolute emission reduction targets. Developing, and again, within the context of the earlier statement, yes? Let's see. Each party shall communicate a nationally determined contribution every 5 years in accordance with the decision. So they're all going to show up every 5 years and go, well, this is what we're doing, this is what we're trying to do. A party may at any time adjust its existing nationally determined contribution with a view to enhancing its levels of ambition in accordance with the guidance adopted by the conference of the party. Okay, so we got to back off, we're going broke, or we can forge ahead, we're kicking ass at this thing. Notice all the wiggle room that they ignore. Article 5. Parties are encouraged to take action to implement and support, including the results-based payments, the existing framework as set out in related guidance. So everybody, if you can, you're encouraged to, contribute to a national fund or an international fund to try and further climate change stuff. What? To promote the mitigation of greenhouse gas emissions while fostering sustainable development, to incentivize and facilitate participation in the mitigation of greenhouse gas emissions by public and private entities authorized by a party. This is the goal. Parties recognize that adaptation is a global challenge faced by all, with local, subnational, national, regional, and international dimensions. And that is a key component of what makes a contribution to the long-term global response to climate change to protect people, livelihoods, and ecosystems, taking into account the urgent and immediate needs of those developing parties that are particularly vulnerable to the adverse effects of climate change. So the flooding that's going to kill people in the third world because the first world is cranking out greenhouse gases. That's the idea. By the way, China's not a developing country in terms of this agreement. In terms of the world, the World Bank and others, they're not according to the Paris Climate Accord. They're not defined as one. But yeah. And look at this. Each party shall, as appropriate, engage in adaptation planning processes for the implementation of actions, including the development of enhancement of relevant plans, policies, or contributions, which may include, that evil word, may, the implementation of adaptation actions, undertaking, and or efforts, the process to formulate and implement national adaptation plans, the assessment of climate change impacts and vulnerabilities with a view to formulating nationally determined prioritized actions, taking into account vulnerable people, places, and ecosystems. Yeah, by the way, notice how there's nothing in here that would say that the American people aren't the vulnerable people in this. And you could go, economically, you're going to screw us if we have to do this. And you go, okay, well, tap out, cool. Monitoring and evaluating and learning from adaptation plans, policies, and programs. So, yeah, you assess and do that, okay. This is, and honestly, part of it is just the rich countries trying to keep the poor countries from going straight to coal and polluting the entire environment. Like, how do we head this off at the pass? According Article 8, according areas of cooperation and facilitation to enhance understanding, action, and support may include early warning systems, emergency preparedness, slow onset events that may involve irreversible and permanent loss and damage, comprehensive risk. They're supposed to look at shit in your country and go, oh yeah, we got this whole section where all the ice is gone. Shit. Oh, it's all right. We've got a place where there's actually too much ice. We'll tell you, when we meet next year, we'll talk about this. But, that ice just shifted. Oh, okay, cool. All right. Well, then we'll just change how we live here for the next 15 years, and you guys will have to do that too. Yeah, we got to watch out for that. Okay, cool. Seriously. I can't stop looking at you, Ben Loco. I cannot. This is the entirety of it, by the way. This is the whole... This is all Article 2, capacity building under this agreement should enhance the capacity and ability of developing country parties, in particular countries with the least capacity, such as the least developed countries. So this is not talking about helping India or China or, large sections of North and South Africa, quite frankly. These are countries that are countries that have oil pipelines going through them, that have their rivers and streams poisoned all the time. All of this, seriously, guys. Parties shall cooperate in taking measures as appropriate. May. You notice throughout this whole goddamn thing, where appropriate, if possible, taking into account vulnerabilities, taking into account economic impacts. All of this is an agreement. You think the rest of these countries sat around and went, oh, this will be great. Well, I'll just go broke signing the same goddamn thing. What Rudy and his ilk hate about the Paris Climate Accord is that they think that this is, because they're stupid, related to China and India being allowed to be producers of greenhouse gases, and the rest of us have to pay for it. Because they assume that those are the developing nations that are, under in this terms of the World Bank and the World Trade Organization, that that the same thing, and same groups are in it. They're not. UN nations. This is UN related. The Paris Accord is a UN related body, so they're not seen. China isn't recognized as a developing nation in terms of the UN or UN policies, or any more than Russia is. This is there's this part they hate too. There's homework. Each party shall regularly provide the following information: a national inventory report of anthropogenic emissions by sources and removals by sinks of greenhouse gases prepared using good practice methodologies. So we gather this shit anyways. We just share it with the rest of the people in the agreement to check how well we're doing. God damn, these people are like, honestly, Rudy was just telling us how everybody's just hysterical. This is a hysterical response. It's just, if you just read this, it reads like any other favored nation's conversation where we're all trying to help each other out and solve a problem together. It's the dumbest. Yeah. Anybody, by the way, I'll post the whole thing on my Twitter if people want to look at it. Because, Rudy's in a friggin' panic. And by the way, that paper that he's got on his desk, that ain't what I just read you. But now that you know even just the simplest aspects of this, like that the word may and where appropriate and, should strive to formulate and communicate long-term low greenhouse gas emission development strategies. All parties should strive. It's just so draconian. How dare you put should strive to? God, this is like a gun to our head. Should strive to. Anybody who reads a document like this and freaks out the way Rudy and his ilk are freaking out is the triggered panic. Do you understand? Can we not? So, knowing that I will post this later, and if anybody wants to, I recommend, guys. It's not even that long. How is it all? Let's see. How many pages is it all together? What do we got? Because it's not big. 25 pages. They all signed it. There's different versions of it in Arabic, Chinese, English, French, Russian, Spanish. They're equally authentic and shall be deposited with the Secretary General of the United States. So if you need to read them in any of those versions, that's Article 29 of the whole thing. There you go. Done at Paris this 12th day of December 2015. And then they all signed it right here. 25 pages. It's 25 pages. It's not that hard to figure. You can go through it with a highlighter one night. Just knowing what I've shown you so far, that, by the way, even written into it and rejoining it, at any time after 3 years from the date on which this agreement has entered into force for a party, that party may withdraw from this agreement by giving written notification to the depositary. That's how we left it. There's no such thing as a draconian, economy-destroying agreement that you can leave after you've signed it. That's what makes it an agreement and not a contract. That's what makes this an accord. According with all of it, we're all... Any such withdrawal shall take effect upon expiry of 1 year from the date of receipt of the depository withdrawal. Okay. Any party that withdraws from the convention shall be considered as also having withdrawn from this agreement. You think? So if you withdraw from the group of countries that's going to get together to talk about climate change, automatically takes you out of this. So that's basically, by the way, how Trump did it, is that they withdrew from the convention. They stopped sending people. Regional economic integration organizations that matters within their competence shall exercise their right to vote with a number of votes equal to the number of their member states that are parties to this agreement, such as an organization shall not exercise the right to vote if any of its member states exercise its right and vice versa. So we had like the equal number of 50 votes in the thing, because we have 50 member states, because we're the United States, and the EU can come as a representative, but each state has within it a certain number of votes. This is like, I mean, the whole thing's just, it's an agreement. Jesus Christ, the panic.
Everything that comes out of the ground, which would make us immobile, really, because none of the other technologies has advanced anywhere near far enough to support an entire world. And much like
Yeah, that's why there's all kinds of outs in it to minimize the environmental impacts while still allowing you to transition. Why the fuck do you think we're fracking?
us in entire America. But we wouldn't do much. We wouldn't do much to change climate situation, would we? Now, why would we go through all that if we're not changing it? Because we'd be
because let me guess. Because this isn't really an environmental accord. It is simply us selling out to China so they can destroy us, even though they're meeting their goals in terms of climate allegedly early. Right? Is that where we're going?
appeasing China and India. China and India
are UN members of the convention, but are not seen as developing nations in it. They are partners in it.
is most of the carbon emission in the world. I mean, we don't emit anything compared to China and India. We could emit 4 times.
Yes, we do. We're 5% of the population. We're an enormous carbon polluter. We've been working on it for longer than other countries because we've had pollution standards, thank you, Jimmy Carter, longer than a bunch of other people. By the way, with no help from Republicans.
Times more than we do, and we wouldn't be touching China or India. So, and in fact, the steel companies we close down and the coal we don't mine, they do it over there.
Yeah, the Paris Climate Accord doesn't affect steel mining. And coal is on its way out. The companies are going bankrupt because nobody's buying the coal. So Deirdre6060 says, why is he doing this? I'll tell you why he's doing this. To defend Donald Trump and attack Joe Biden. There is no other reason. It's a clown show.
It's the same atmosphere, isn't it? You think it's different if it comes up from China than if it comes up from Pennsylvania?
Everywhere. So, okay, here's a picture. Smoke coming from China. Smoke also coming from the United States. Smoke also coming from Europe. Smoke also coming from India. American smoke goes away. European smoke goes away. India smoke goes away. Still smoke from China, but not as much smoke as if America smoke, European smoke, India smoke. Right? We got that. I mean, we understand that concept, right? All right.
China's cleaner. China doesn't affect the climate. We're gonna cost ourselves trillions of dollars, hundreds of millions in. I shouldn't say hundreds of millions, millions and millions in jobs. Entire industry.
Why are there not other jobs that will be replaced? I mean, where do you think the fracking jobs came from? Literally, natural gas and the growth of natural gas is a mitigatory fossil fuel away from oil to something that burns cleaner and produces less methane. It has other environmental impacts that are difficult, but they are equal to or the same as, on most measures, what happens when you drill for oil. You know, both poison the groundwater. Most of the, like Exxon and BP, they take, toluene, benzene, and all this other stuff, and then they just pump it back down into the well and cap it off instead of getting rid of it like they're supposed to.
Industries destroyed. Families out of work forever. We're going to do all that to ourselves.
Why? Why are they out of work forever? Why are they out of work forever, Rudy? They can't find other jobs doing other shit. So basically what you're saying is certain poor people, according to Rudy Giuliani, are assigned to a life of black lung and drudgery. And if that isn't available to them, what have they got?
And we're going to still have China emitting more and more and more and more, because
Why more and more? They've actually got the same. They were all right.
without those fuels, you can't sustain a developed economy. That's just nonsense. But without those fuels, you could never bring an undeveloped economy out from being undeveloped to being developed. So you'd be saying to China, you got to freeze in place. You got to freeze in place.
No, you don't. They're already shifting away from coal to natural gas and nuclear. I mean, we haven't even touched on thorium reactors as a possible energy source. And until we do, we're dicking around. Can we just settle on that? Solar farms, wind farms, awesome. On top of that, for like round the clock energy, thorium reactors are a strong possibility and need to be explored. And they don't make weaponizable uranium in the process. Half of the reason why our nuclear weapons, why our nuclear facilities in the United States and why Russia had them in other countries, why they produce dangerous waste is because they were meant to. It was killing two birds with one nuke. You choose a fuel source that leaves behind a weaponizable radioactive element that you can make into a bomb. It's a factory as well. Thorium doesn't do that. You can't make a bomb out of the residual left in a thorium reactor. You can't do it. And it's not nearly as radioactive, what's left over. But we didn't use thorium because we needed a system where we could have, the processed uranium and plutonium to make nukes.
China just says, hey, you polluted in order to get where you are. Now we have a right to pollute.
They don't have to, though, because we polluted to get where we are because it was 1910.
And have you been to Beijing? Have you been?
Yes, I have. They polluted the shit out of the place. They've learned their lesson quicker because they had more deaths.
Been to New Delhi?
No, I've not been to New Delhi. But I've been to more places in China than Rudy has, I guarantee it.
Have you ever seen the fog and the smog and the...
Yes. It's near equivalent to what the London fog was.
It just hangs all over you. If that's not stopped, you're not doing anything about...
Yeah, they stopped it. They literally timed the usage of the factories in Beijing because they created... All right, I don't know if you guys know this, but they decided to create an industrial sector in Beijing. And since it was on a bullseye kind of city development that goes outward, they decided to create an industrial ring around the city. And what they did was, accidentally, create so many factories in a big ring around the city that no matter which way the wind blows, there's always smoke going over the city. It was ridiculous. So they had to shut down factories based on which way the wind blew. Because, brilliant planning. And then they just had to we got to shift all these things. We got to get away from where they're producing this kind of stuff, or just shut them down, move them further away from the city. I speak Mandalorian. 真的吗？你会说 Mandalorian 吗？
Climate change.
I've been to the Great Wall 4 times? 4 times.
But political theater, which will satisfy Hollywood and continue to cause the same damage that is being caused, if indeed damage is being caused at all.
Well, you either have to establish there is any or isn't any for your argument at all. So get at it.
Certainly damage to health is being caused in those places that have all that smog and fog and...
Yeah, we know. That's why we get rid of it over here. And the Republicans push back against it. What do you think all the regulations Trump killed were? They were all, he was like, I saved so many jobs while taking so many lives. These were just, all Trump did was create cancer clusters we're going to see in 10 years.
That's why it's a stupid political solution and not...
Yeah, use your words, Rudy. The best people.
A real one, not an honest one. We'll be back very shortly.
Really? Another ad?
If you want a good...
Fuck, that's gross. No. Is he doing 4 ads now? By the way, do you think that Rudy actually understands any aspect of the Paris Climate Accord after what I showed you and what he has said? Or is it just some dickhead who's saddled up to you at the bar and is dripping bourbon on your sleeve while trying to tell you what you want to know? You know what you need to know? I'll tell you what's up.
Let's continue with our discussion of the policy changes that will occur rather quickly in the Biden administration.
Already did.
Then we look at trade. We look at trade with China because that's a big part of both our domestic and our foreign policy. So let's look at it from the point of view of foreign policy.
Sure.
We have
Yeah. Why would we look at our trade relationship with China in terms of foreign policy?
We have over the years proceeded to give China the most favorable of trade deals, and we did it for good reason at first.
We did it. Yeah. There you go. What?
And then the reasons really evaporated, but the policies continued. And I'll give it the best possible interpretation. We didn't.
Oh, I see. So what you're saying is up until about midway through the Obama administration, when they started putting tariffs on Chinese steel, going through all that kind of like product dumping limitations that the Obama administration put on China, up until about that point, China had earned its developing nation status, and it's emerging currently and has been over the series of years. It never happens on a specific date. There's no day when you kind of can put a pin in it. Today, officially no longer a developing nation. Allegedly 1 billion people in that country, 300 million of them operating in, living in abject poverty, just below the brutal standards. So one would think that until such time as China has fewer people living in abject poverty in its country than the entire population of the United States, for example. Maybe until that time, they still are considered a developing nation. Just on But there's definitely a period where you take training wheels off, and after a while, you're like, okay, you're ready for a, gas powered vehicle. You might, have a motorcycle at some point. We'll get, these steps happen in everybody's development. Countries develop much like people do.
We didn't know it. We didn't see it. We didn't see the change. China.
We didn't.
Was a great breakthrough for Nixon and Kissinger. China's playing China off against Russia and Russia off against China did lead, in some ways, it wasn't the main thing, but it led to the end of the Cold War, which was one of the great presidential victories ever. Ronald Reagan liberated.
Yeah, sure. So what you're saying is giving China, developing nation, status and the like, welcoming them into basically the World Trade Organization and the like. That was part of the strategy of isolating Russia and pushing it back against them. And it worked. It did functionally work, especially because they were both communist at the time, and an alignment between the two would have been overwhelming, especially if Russia started sharing their nukes with China. And they were both hostile to us. It would be the end of America and Europe if they ever decided to. So maybe flooding China with effectively a greed weapon, which is effectively what's happened, was a successful way of shifting the political environment there without murdering millions of people. Something like that?
Millions and millions of people. Made himself one of 3 American presidents that liberated that many people. Abraham Lincoln, Franklin Roosevelt, Ronald Reagan liberated millions.
Yeah, so Trump's not even in that group? I thought he was the greatest president ever. Who's the millions of people he liberated? Americans. I'm more American than we go. Come on.
And China played a role in that. And we tried to play China off against Russia, kind of a friend
Did we?
and a competitor. But
Frenemies is what the word you're looking for. But explain to us how it works. This is like we'll now get a picture of how Rudy and Donald Trump work when they're trying to screw their friends.
we let friend take over and we stopped watching competitor as we began to make unfortunate trade deals with China, like the 35-0 and many, 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 many others. There are people in this country
Like what? Like what? List them. But enough about Michael Cohen.
that I visited that can tell you exactly where the factory they had is now, in 4 places in China. And those were done starting with Clinton.
That's when it started.
In that way, it went through Bush and it got really, really supercharged under Obama, which is to make China happy. We stopped paying attention.
Was that our goal, or was it because the American consumer wants to pay increasingly lower prices for increasingly more elaborate goods? Could it be, Rudy, that the single easiest way, follow me on this, to increase the living standard of Americans when you know that corporations aren't, game to increase everyone's salary by 400% in 10 years? Perhaps there is a way to increase the creature comforts of the average American, and where we might have made televisions or other things here that everybody could get a job from, but those TVs cost effectively 2 months' salary. We got the cost of, and that was a black and white box in the 60s, costing you 2 months' salary to have one. Only the wealthiest families could have a television in their house. I didn't have one until I was 15 when I grew up in Kentucky. I used to go to my neighbor's house to watch television, or my grandmother's house. So having think about TVs since China entered the World Trade Organization and got developing nation status. Rudy, shall we? In your obviously veneer oak IKEA cigar smoking den, that a computer in 1960 was something only banks and the military had, and the smallest ones were the size of a massive refrigerator, operated with punch cards, and could do, effectively simple equations. They could just keep doing them all night. That was the only thing. They were basically like they were the tortoise and the hare to the human. They could just keep cranking computations longer than people. But they cost millions of dollars. I'll be right back. Hang on. I want to show you guys something. I've brought this out before, but you guys have seen this. It's a good thing to bring up. Okay, so this is my first computer, okay? This is the first computer I ever had. We got it when I was in high school. When we moved to Chicago, my dad was working as an architect. The company said, we'll pay for half of it if you want to get a computer so you can do some of the work at home with the drafting software that they had. This is a 128K Macintosh. 128K. 128K. Not meg, not gig, not terabyte. And this is 1984, I think, was when we got this. Yeah, it's a Mac. 128K. Oh, it's a collector's item. I'm keeping it. And it still starts up. This thing cost $3,000. That was still, I think that was our rent for a month in the guest house we lived in, which we paid half off on because we remodeled it just to live there so I could go to a better school. All right? So let me explain something to you, Rudy, while you're talking about how China wrecked our economy and all this kind of stuff. That since 1986, in the last 40 years, less than 40 years, that $3,000 computer now that's available is like basically a Mac Mini this big, has, I mean, an order of magnitude more memory and capability in it. Your phone, your friggin' phone, like this iPad, it's a $600 item, which is nothing to sneeze at, but it lasts in its quality for about 5 years before it starts to, get outpaced by other stuff. But the capabilities of it are, and that's in $1986. That was, $1985. That was $3,000. But because China and some of that manufacturing moved over there, the average American who couldn't get a computer, couldn't get a television set, certainly couldn't have flat screens and all that kind of stuff. Remember when in the 90s when flat screens started to show up? The ones in the mid-90s were like boxes. They took over your whole goddamn desk. They cost $6,000. The first flat screens cost, like $12,000. It was ridiculous. I remember $100 meg per RAM. I remember when I got a hard drive to do audio on my Mac 2CI, it was $700 for this hard drive. It was literally, I used an entire paycheck to buy a hard drive that this hard drive costs $150 when I got it and has like 4 terabytes. It isn't because the paycheck went up. What we could buy with our money increased by like 500-fold. Yeah, median household income in 85 was $23,000. Can you imagine a $3,000 computer for the average person? Get out of here. Now you can get a $300 like Lenovo laptop, like just a junker, and it still does you can play games on it, you can do any kind of presentational work or you can run a 3D program on it. Our lives, what it costs to have a better life, came with that exchange. And you can hate it. You can argue against it. You can go, well, these creature comforts in exchange for these manufacturing jobs is a terrible thing. But even the people who worked at those factories who make less money doing whatever else they went to do had available to them in the last 20 years especially a level of creature comforts and capabilities as far as computers and television sets and telephones and, lights that, like hue lights and all that kind of stuff that kings couldn't think of. Do you understand? Like, I get it. You want manufacturing here, and there's certain value to it always being there. But at some point, if you listen to Andrew Yang, robots are going to be building almost everything. But when that happens, everything they build will cost next to nothing. The power that it costs to run them nonstop, because they will be basically those punch card computers again. My first computer was in 2000. It was an Avalon for $1,400. Yeah. We definitely benefit from cheap labor. That was the trade-off. That was it. You're talking about like 3 to 5 million manufacturing jobs that vanished, but that a lot of those people went to do other things, hopefully will upgrade and are not doing menial labor for, at a factory where they could lose their fingers and whatnot on very difficult things. That ended up moving to China or other places. And the quality went up and the cost went down. And over time, people who work in a fast food restaurant for a living, even on what's effectively what would be the lowest rung of work in this country by most people's standards, have a flat screen in their house. They live, they can live with items that only, like rappers and rock stars had in just the 90s, just recently. This is seriously, and believe me, like the issue isn't that. The issue is child labor. The issue is pollution. The issue is whether or not there are environmental standards and safety standards put forth in those countries. That's more of the problem than some sort of weirdly racist idea that I want a white person or an American of some sort, black, Asian, Latino, whatever, living in the United States building it instead of somebody else building it. That somehow different, makes a difference. The difference is how they're treated, and that's what we got to care about. But this illusion that somehow Rudy Giuliani gives a rat's ass about what happened to the average worker who lost their job, or that he gives a fuck about coal, is embarrassing. And by the way, he's using an iPad, so tell us again about what stuff that's assembled in China.
Attention to Chairman Xi Jinping.
Yeah, it's not like Chinese names change based on pronunciation. So what difference should the consonants make? It's not like your client is a world leader that, was a world leader that talked to him.
Call him Chairman Xi Jinping, and the Democrats call him President Xi Jinping because they translate his title,
right,
which in Chinese it means chairman, to president, as part of their massive propaganda campaign to fool stupid Westerners.
Is that what it is? So we translate it, instead of saying chairman, we say president because it's part of their, I see.
You see the difference, right? President suggests
no.
That's a democratic country, right? Chairman suggests what he really is, the head of the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party.
No. Nobody thinks he was voted in.
Only 90 million of the 1.34 billion Chinese are Chinese communists. They're all wealthy people, some of them as wealthy as the people in Russia and Ukraine and places like.
Yeah, tell Jack Ma about that. Anybody, you guys know who Jack Ma is? Anybody in the chat know who Jack Ma is? Tell me how safe you are. Yes, he is. Okay, Jack Ma is a Chinese billionaire. He started Alibaba. Alibaba is like the Amazon of China. A lot of the stuff that you buy on Amazon and other sites, especially Walmart.com. Walmart.com is basically just a front portal, a drop ship portal for Alibaba. Okay, so whatever you order on there comes from Alibaba, and he's not still missing. He was missing for a while because he fell out of favor because he questioned the government. So he's now shown up like a day ago, but he was missing. And now they're starting to basically gut his company. So the international investment in Alibaba is going down. So everybody was worried that they had scooped him up and, sent him to, they basically sent him to a re-education camp is the concern. And you see that the stock went back up after he turned out not to be dead. It's still a big question. Nice enough guy. But it's hard to say how much control he has. Like if somebody interviews Jeff Bezos and he says, this is how the company's going, you know it to be true for the most part. I mean, he could be, sunshining it a little bit, but you can check the numbers. When Jack Ma says Alibaba's doing great, you don't know whether he's saying that, whether he really believes it, or whether China is making him say it and all that kind of stuff. That's part of it. And as far as, he still has over $50 billion. He can't get it out of China, though, so what good is it? You know what I mean? It's like you have all the gold you can swim across the ocean with on your back. Knock yourself out. Anyways, so, Ma is one of those people that he's talking about. And Ma went off the res a little bit and then disappeared. So, Rudy's talking out of his ass is just an important thing to know right now.
Like that?
He knows Rudy knows as much about the Chinese economy and growth in the Chinese economy as he knows about the Paris Climate Accord.
They live lives of tremendous luxury and wealth.
Of course, you can't have car insurance in China. So if you injure someone with your car, you are often responsible for them for the rest of their lives. You have to pay out of pocket for it. So a lot of rich Chinese people, if they hit somebody with their car, and some people will often push a relative in front of a car to try and get them slightly injured so that they can make a living off of that, the rich person who has a car will often back up over the person and kill them so that they can just be fined for hitting someone and killing them with their car and not financially responsible for the rest of their life. But please don't go look up those videos online. It will upset you.
And they are a total, complete, absolute dictatorship, right down to determining what you're going to do with your life. And at times they determine how many children you can have. They had periods where they killed young women, children.
No, they didn't. One-child policy had nothing to do with the gender of the child. Families did that because it was a tradition you wanted a boy child, and if you ended up with a girl and you could only have one, they didn't want to end up having a girl. So they realized that was the mistake of the Chinese government. The Chinese government didn't kill girl children to get rid of them. That was an unfortunate aspect, they said, of their one-child policy, that the favoring a male child aspect of the culture ended up getting a lot of female babies either aborted or killed. The Chinese government didn't order the killing of girls, or they wouldn't be in the problem they have right now, which is where they don't have nearly enough girls for all the guys.
They have so many.
Their relationships it's incredibly hard, which is, by the way, why their real estate market is eating shit right now. That's another story.
People in captivity that we don't know how many people they have in captivity.
Right. We don't.
Death in China means very little. And their most recent, unbelievably immoral attack on the rest of the world was CCP virus that began in Wuhan, China, earlier than we even know so far. China knew about it, and China allowed it to be exported to the rest of the world.
That's what they did. They exported it. They just had people spit it all over vases.
Down China. Chinese traveled for a month and a half. People wouldn't close down travel. The first one to do it, President Trump.
Not even close. Trump shut down travel with China first. Okay, let me see the easier one to read on here. Okay. Boink. Excuse me. Thanks, AP. Let's see. Then we got full cover. There's Biden on. Let's see. The trade advisor. There's Navarro, Fauci. Let's see. Okay, this is the AP fact check on the trade advisor. There we go. In review, the ban. And we'd have thousands of people coming in. We saved millions of potential lives. He didn't ban travel from China. He restricted it. Dozens of countries took similar steps to control travel from hotspots before and around the same time as the U.S. did. U.S. restrictions that took place on February 2nd continue to allow travel to the U.S. from China's Hong Kong and Macau territories over the past 5 months, even if they'd been on the mainland. Associated Reports reported that more than 8,000 Chinese and foreign nationals based in those territories entered the United States in the first 3 months after the travel restrictions were imposed. Additionally, there were more than 27,000 Americans returned from mainland China in the first month after the restrictions took effect. Few doubt that the heavy death toll from COVID-19 would be even heavier if the world had not been constricted globally, but Trump has no scientific basis to claim he did that. Okay, so just for the record, somewhere in the order of 30 other countries banned travel with China before he did. was Trump? Let's see. What's the? I don't know who. He was slow to stop the travel. Let's see. Biden claimed that 45 nations had already moved to enforce travel restrictions with China before the president moved. The extent of travel restrictions vary from the suspension of visa programs to entry denial. According to the one tracker on travel restrictions, Biden's 45 figure checks out. Other researchers show that number is around 36. Where Biden misleads is on the relative speed of the U.S. compared with others. U.S. travel restrictions came shortly after the WHO declared a public health emergency and around the same time as other nations. Biden's statement that Trump's travel restriction was slower than the 40 other countries is partially accurate, but leaves out important details, taking things out of context. We rate it as half true. Okay, 45. These guys checked it out. Biden's 45 figure checks out as far as that part. Our research shows that the number's around 36. What Biden was talking about, what the statesman tries to protect Trump from and doesn't add in there, was the fact that the restriction that was put in place that he was talking about was a sieve. Lots of people still came in, thousands. So not a ban, and it dragged on for months.
First one to criticize it, Joe Biden.
Who said, Angela Gomez, how can't knock them all out of the park? I beg your, I absolutely can. You try each time. Oh, crap. I'm not going to.
Periods where they kill young women, children. They have so many people in captivity that we don't know how many people they have in captivity.
Right. Rudy, how many people does the American, the American penal system have incarcerated right now? What's a ballpark number? Any idea?
Death in China means very little. And their most
all right. That must explain all the rituals around it.
Recent, unbelievably immoral attack on the rest.
Death in China means so little that you don't even want to be the fourth candidate to run for office when people are running for local office because people think you died. Because the words "si" and "si," for and death are sound sonically similar.
The rest of the world was CCP virus that began in Wuhan, China, began in China earlier than we even know so far. China knew about it, and China allowed it to be exported to the rest of the world, closed down China. Chinese traveled for a month and a half. People wouldn't close down travel. The first one to do it.
The first one to do it. The first one to do it. The first one to do
President Trump. First one to criticize it, Joe Biden.
No. I was way faster at criticizing Trump's actions around it than Biden was. He was downright gentlemanly.
A lot of those trade deals, by the way, were made by Joe Biden. They were made under very...
They were. All those trade deals with China were made by Joe Biden, by himself, in the Senate.
Unusual conditions. They were
these lone wolf trade deals
made while his son was a partner with the Bank of China. We didn't know it at the time.
You still don't know it. I mean, you're making it up. It's such a goofy lie.
As of, I think it was a year ago, Joe Biden himself was signed up as a partner of two major members of the Chinese Communist Party. One of them, one of the major spies in China, and the other one of the major intelligence officials. Very, very.
Oh, you mean like the dude who owns the boat that Steve Bannon was arrested on?
High-level Chinese Communist Party members. The Biden family over the years has gotten millions from the Chinese Communist Party. Their ability to stand up to China, I don't know. I see the trade deals getting worse. I see the military expansion unchecked on the theory that China is not a threat to us, as Biden has articulated. And I see even worse
Yeah, because when China wasn't a threat to us, in its military expansion, if you said it wasn't at the time, that statement still stands.
Economic warfare against us becoming even.
Rudy, you thought the girl interviewing you was 15. You didn't find out she was an adult until after you tried to sexually assault her. So we'll just go with your methodology here that you believe that it's okay to have sex with 15-year-olds or attempt to. I don't know that you would succeed.
Greater, they basically own a lot of America. And we found out in this campaign, they also own a lot of American public opinion.
They own our opinion? I mean, you sure they're not just renting? By the way, do we want to go back and watch Eric Trump's talk about the investment money that they get from China?
Because of the greed of many American corporations.
Oh, greedy corporations. You tell them, Rudy. Finally.
So if you were to call it the Chinese virus, you're a racist.
Yeah, you're a racist. This is true. I mean, not just because of that. I mean, there's other reasons too.
I don't know, where did it come from? China. Maybe you could call it the Wuhan virus. Well, so I call it the CCP virus, the Chinese Communist.
Why don't you call it SARS-CoV-2? Because that's the actual name for it. I mean, did we have this back and forth about MERS, by the way? Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome?
Communist Party virus. Because I don't mean to insult the Chinese people. They're victims of the Chinese Communist Party. But it certainly was a deliberate
So is Hunter, right?
decision of Xi Jinping to allow that virus to spread throughout the world. And he's personally responsible for the death of every single one of those people from CCP virus.
Oh, so Trump should have hit them with a military strike. I'm glad you were in the White House.
To this day, had he
what?
told the truth from day one, who knows how many lives could have been saved.
You're assuming he had the truth and that it wasn't a moving circumstance. But please, why didn't you tell us more about the planes before they struck the towers in New York? Rudy, why didn't you mention them beforehand? You knew those towers were there. You had 50% of the equation. You knew airplanes fly. That's another 10%. You put those two ideas together, Rudy basically caused 9/11. Am I wrong? No, I don't think so.
Almost all probably, or pretty close to all. That's the China we're facing. They expect to pass us by 2040.
Hey, okay. Hold on. Kisses. Love you. Have fun. Are you driving or are you being driven?
No, she's here. I'm driving us.
Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. All right.
Will you throw the towels in the dryer when you're done?
I would be glad to. Love you. Yeah. Got to put the towels in the dryer when I'm done with my big shoe.
They're doing a lot better in moving in that direction than Al Gore was in the world ending in 2010. And they were doing pretty well even with...
I saw... Do I have lipstick on right now? She was wearing lipstick because she's gone out. I saw an inconvenient truth. Did I miss the part where the world was supposed to end in 2010? Right? Does anybody remember what the actual date was? One second. I'm going to check something. An inconvenient truth. Okay. So, what's the point of releasing a movie in 2006 if the world's going to end in 2010? It calls for immediate action to curb its effects. Yeah, is there any... No? Let's see. World ends in 2010. Did you know trivia? In the documentary, Al Gore states the United States is one of the judges about on December 3rd, 2007, Inauguration Day, more than a year after the documentary was released, the new Australian Prime Minister signed the Kyoto Protocol. Goes out and shows a slide of the ice graph there. Average is at 0.5 and the negative numbers are flipped. The graph is correct in the book. The slide is wrong and therefore misleading. You look at this river flowing. You notice the leaves rustling in the wind. You hear the birds. You hear it's quiet. It's peaceful. All of a sudden, it's a gear shift inside you. It's like take a deep breath and going, oh yeah, I forgot about this. And then nope, I don't see anything about good Good film overall, but there's a few problems. Something about the world ending in 2010. Let's see. Details. When will the world end? It cost $1.5 million to make. Opening weekend, it made $281,000. Move over Hunger Games. Grossed $24 million in the United States and $49 million worldwide. So, a good investment overall. There's a couple of other ones. They just filmed the lecture circuit, basically. 96 minutes of love. Lovin'. Okay, well, I don't see it ending in 2010, but if you guys know, it was 2012, that's right. It was supposed to end in 2000 before the movie starts.
Very aggressive counter effort by President Trump and Peter Navarro and others. Well, that's going to completely fold.
Yeah, is it? So during COVID, the party that was working on TPP, which would have curtailed production growth in China now that they've kind of hit a stasis point and have become more isolationist in their own currency, to open up production trade with Taiwan, South Korea, Thailand, and Syria, Vietnam, Cambodia, other countries like that, which have the same kind of developmental needs. By starting that Biden and the people who were behind that are going to throw it all back to China in the middle of us still dealing with COVID. Okay, yeah, it sounds like a plan.
I mean, if Biden were to change his position on China, I think China would soon try to get the money back that they've given it.
I think that's supposed to be sarcasm.
So at a time in which China is our major competitor.
Can you turn that paper over one more time? Maybe there's information on the other side.
For primus inter pares, the first among equals among nations. We have a president that's been heavily compromised by that country, which knows how to compromise people. Also,
does it? Yeah, well, they're no Russia, but...
So I have the hard drive that reveals many crimes by the Biden family and other acts.
Yeah, we're still waiting for it. Just release it. We've got 70 terabytes of Parler information uploaded to a website. You can't do how much does that hard drive hold? 500 gigs?
That's only a small portion of what China has.
So, okay. So they've got more compromat, and that's what's holding things. All right. Okay. So, of what?
So we're in for a very difficult time with China, and we'll have to watch that very closely.
You would probably just look at it. Right? Might as well.
We will have to watch Ukraine, where there's a very substantial history of Biden corruption.
Yeah, totally. If the Ukrainians start doing well, the Russians aren't going to be happy. Clearly.
How can Biden change the single biggest problem in Ukraine, corruption, when he was such a major participant in it? And
he wasn't. His son started working for Burisma. It was very corrupt. They worked with the company. It's no longer corrupt. Biden was point person when there were sock puppets throughout the government, and the prosecutor's office was the worst of it. They were letting Russian oligarchs get away with literal murder. Biden was the point person. Those people are gone. Ukraine is a functioning country. Honestly, have we... I look like a guy from Beauty and the Beast. There's a story there, Carla. There's a story there. I got into a relationship for a few years because I went to... I met a girl. We went out on our first date. She worked nights, just saying. And we went out on our first date during the day, and we saw Beauty and the Beast, the cartoon, when it came out. And literally... And the beast turns into a guy at the end of the cartoon, the Disney cartoon. And I had longer hair even at that point, and I looked just like him. It was weird. And that was it. Now we're a thing.
Everyone in Ukraine.
It wasn't the Ron Perlman TV show. It was the cartoon.
Ukraine knows about it, much less in China, where he and his son were partners with some of the most dishonest, crooked members of the Chinese Communist Party. One of them just mysteriously or not just, a year ago, mysteriously disappeared and is feared dead because he's involved with Chinese organized crime. Those are the kind of people they were involved.
I see. And he wasn't successful in turning Biden towards China, so they killed him?
In. So watch China very, very carefully. And then...
May shirt, no problem.
Of course, the Middle East and their fascination and admiration for Iran, which...
Fascination and admiration for Iran. Excuse me, Rudy. May I? May I for 1 second? Let's see. Something like that. Let's see. Let's see. Whoops. Sorry, I'm typing something and missed something. Let's see. Is Iran the world's greatest untapped skiing destination? Well, it's untapped right now, but it sure as shit was tapped in the 40s. The Alborz Mountains in northern Iran stretch from the border of Azerbaijan along the western and southern coast of the Caspian Sea. These holiday visit resorts in the center of the mountain range, north of the Iranian capital of Tehran. Iran's ski areas reach altitudes that overshadow those of even the highest resorts in the Alps. Val Thorens, Europe's loftiest resort, is 2,300 meters, with slopes ascending just over 3,000 meters. And the highest mountain in the Alps, Mont Blanc, is 4,000. The Brits used to go skiing in Iran all the time. These are Iranians. These are the Iranian people. Now, we all know the difference between talking about a country in terms of its government and talking about a country in terms of its people. And Iran is one of the starkest separations in those kind of conversations, where the extremity of what the government does versus what it does to its own people and how those people favor Western philosophy, Western ideals, fairness, like the advancement of women, all kinds of elements of Tehran, as a culture, Iran as a culture, as the Persian people, as they often like to call themselves when they're in Los Angeles, for example. We, at my Mason Lodge, the Iranian Grand Lodge in Exile meets because they can't meet in Iran because of the mullahs, because of the ruling party. But they, all these, there's a lot to like about the Iranian people, especially when you get to interact with them outside of the awful that is the Iranian. Yes, those are wealthy Iranians, clearly, but it doesn't mean that people in Iran are any different. That's what I'm saying. Yes, most skiers in the United States are wealthy. That's not my point. Yes. So, here's another. Iran before the revolution. Here's Iran before the revolution. Mullets, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, there are parts of this that look like the friggin' Bronx for all practical purposes. This is before the overthrow. And by the way, all of it was about oil. Once oil goes, all the rest of it goes. Yeah, this is the 60s and 70s. There's a reason why people are seeking to find a way, short of blowing people up, Thanks, Amy. To get back to this. Do you understand? Yeah, Iran before the revolution was a multicultural society. Absolutely. It was a tourist destination. It was like going to, Turkey or, other countries of its level in the region. This is not how most people picture Tehran. So there you go. I'm just saying. The people are like, there's a lot of action trying to get, because the hunger culturally for the people of Iran is to get back to the freedoms that they had during this period. And it was not that long ago. So that's why. I personally like the idea that maybe one day Iran can hit its own reset and go back to the freedoms that are available to them at this period, because I would like that for the people of Iran. Why wouldn't you?
You could actually see during the Obama administration, to the point of
Iran isn't currently the most developed Muslim nation. I mean, not technically. I mean, it's on par with obviously Saudi Arabia and UAE being an entirely different animal, but
of delivering $1 billion in cash in an airplane
that was theirs, that we were physically holding, that it had been, that international law had stated they deserved to get back. We're like, we'll unfreeze these funds if you stop trying to build a nuke, and we did, and they got it back
without any accountability. Well, I don't know if Biden's going to continue to send them money, but he is going to try to redo the dangerous, irresponsible deal that was done with them, largely because the Europeans love it because they're making money off it. And
why are they making money off of it? Why are the Europeans making money off of it? Why? Because they're opening trade with Iran, and that loosens the control of the controlling religious party. The same way that we try to open with Cuba and do the same thing.
And in doing that, he will.
By the way, Trump gets all of his loans from Russia. All of them.
Will be contributing to and I don't think anyone disputes this, the biggest state sponsor of terrorism in the world.
That's only because state-sponsored terrorism is an increasingly smaller thing.
I would like you to use your common sense now.
I have been. You start.
They're the biggest state sponsor of terrorism in the world, and no one disputes that. I don't think his Secretary of Defense, if it is Blinken, will
the world's tallest midget argument.
Dispute that. Then what do they do? What makes them the biggest state sponsor of terrorism in the world? They don't really supply troops too often.
Somebody's phone just went.
They did that in Iraq and killed Americans under Soleimani, who Biden criticized President Trump for having Soleimani eliminated.
Yeah. Because killing the leader of ISIS or Osama bin Laden, one of those folks, is wholly different as an act than assassinating the military leader of a government official in a peaceful act. He's in transit. This is not like, having a drone strike or a sniper kill somebody while they're about to push a plunger on a bomb. It's an escalation.
He also was against having bin Laden eliminated. That's kind of interesting.
No, he wasn't. He thought they should wait to make sure he was there. Anybody want to go read that story? Does anybody want to actually check it? Because Biden tells you the truth about what he said. He didn't hide that. I love how they take stuff that Biden's actually said and went like he was caught on a hot mic. It's in his autobiography.
As to how weak.
And he was every time he tells the story, he's bragging about the leadership of Barack Obama. Every time he tells the story, if there's any exaggeration at all, it's, look, I wanted to wait, but he was resolute. He did what had to be done. I gave him, a night.
He's going to be with regard to our Islamic terrorist enemies who have been held under pretty darn good control by Trump.
You mean by the Wuhan virus? Iran's having literally there's more damage being done to Iran because of COVID than anything the United States or any other country has done through sanctions over the last 15 years.
Finally getting the job done and getting rid of ISIS, which Biden and Obama didn't do.
Couldn't possibly do? Couldn't possibly do? Do you know why we were out of smart bombs? Because Obama had used all of them that Congress had budgeted.
So what happens with Iran?
Yeah, what happens with Iran? Tell us, Rudy.
Well, they go back to openly building nuclear weapons. They're doing it secretly
They already did that when you left the deal.
anyway. Probably
left
haven't
the deal.
missed a day. They end up having a lot more money to do it.
I did, Amy. Cheers.
But they also end up having a lot more money
Thank you.
to be the state sponsor of terrorism. That means they give money to terrorists. You give them...
No, I thought they put stickers on them like NASCAR. They're state sponsors or whatever. So they're like, all the suicide bombers have a big patch on them like Pennzoil, Khomeini. Right.
You give them $1 billion and about half of that goes to terrorists. Terrorist groups like Hezbollah and Hamas and groups we don't even know the name of. Terrorist groups that kill...
Well, then how do you know it goes to them if you don't know the name? I mean, it's a weird, like, I get Hezbollah and Hamas. Right. Issues, certainly. But are you just going to start adding... there are other groups. We know they exist. That's how the number gets up there. You know, we got like $20 million going to these, to Hamas and Hezbollah, but we know there's, they'd have to spend $100 million to be the number one state sponsor of terror. So there's $80 million that's going to other groups we don't even know of, groups that we could possibly, that are, you know, that you don't even, I know, but you don't even know.
Israelis that kill Westerners.
What? Oh, they kill Israelis, they kill Westerners? I see.
That kill Americans.
Oh, you mean like the maggots that stormed the Capitol? Okay, cool.
Isn't that disgraceful? That we would give money?
Yes, it's disgraceful that MAGA supporters would beat a cop to death.
To a country that's the biggest supporter of terrorism in the world?
Well, they weren't at the time.
Supporting terrorism means
That went up under Trump because he scuttled the Iran deal.
giving money to terrorists?
But again, I would like to check your numbers. I mean, this is an assertion. Let's see if that is. Let's go see what that means. Let's see. Iran. I know I'm dragging you guys down. Iran, biggest. Let's see if we make that. State sponsor of terrorism. Countries determined, related articles, okay. Countries determined by the Secretary of State to have repeatedly provided support for acts of, okay. Oh, so, I get it. Okay, so here's the 4. Cuba, that just happened. North Korea, 2017. And then Iran got on there in 1984. They've been on the list since 1984. So basically, are we looking at cumulative dollars at this point? Like they're the number one because they've got more money than Syria and they've been on the list the longest. Although Syria's been on since 1979. These are the state sponsors. These are the ones that make the list. There's only 4, according to the State Department. Pompeo added Cuba just recently. We don't quite know why. Literally, we don't. Like, this is going to have to, there's going to have to be a big act to remove them, I suppose. Thanks, Dennis. Absolutely.
And terrorists kill innocent people? We're contributing to the killing of innocent people?
Yeah, you smoke cigars from Cuba, Rudy. They're the number one state sponsor on the list.
Is it because they don't think about it? Is it because they're stupid? Is it because their left-wing ideology just takes over all common sense? And does it take away their conscience too?
Yeah, that's what it is. That it couldn't be that they feel like engagement is better than disenfranchising the people due to the actions of the government entirely, and that the Iraq strategy was terrible. You still don't have you were negotiating directly with the Taliban. Trump wanted to bring them actually to the White House. So some people are like, maybe because the vast majority of Iranians especially integrate themselves very well and would like to with most of Europe and the rest of the world, but they're controlled by a fierce government. Is there a thing about like Venezuelans that we don't like that they come into the United States if they've got the means and wherewithal? I don't think so. All right.
I don't know, but that's something.
Yes, you don't. That's the truest thing he said so far.
That the loyal opposition, Republican Party, both with regard
Hannity's interviewing Mike Lindell again. I mean, is there anybody else for them to talk to?
to China and Ukraine, we're going to have to stand very, very firm, or we're going to be back in the, Democrats cleaning up in Ukraine and using it as a cash machine. And
Yeah, because that's where all the money is, guys. Ukraine.
China, basically.
Hey, we have another patron. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Patreon.com/Hal Sparks. Think about supporting the show. It'd be lovely. Thank you very much and stuff.
Probably getting five-year jump on their take over the world policy with no real opposition from the United States.
Well, sorry, who has the Ukraine has a take over the world policy? Is it a policy? Really? Did they pass it through? I'm surprised Take Over the World got out of committee.
We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
Why?
I couldn't believe we
got out of lawsuit with that thing. They got evicted from Cleveland. All right, this is, by the way, we've all made it to nearly the end of this. Thank you guys for watching. We're getting in the last little run of this. I appreciate it. It's nice to hang out with you. Regular show time tomorrow. Sexy Liberals on Saturday. Radio show. Good times. Here we go.
Let's continue with emphasizing the policy changes, particularly in foreign policy, in the Biden administration.
Yeah, let's talk about the foreign policy.
So that's a pretty good review of their foreign policy moves.
Or your lack of understanding of geography and humanity.
Interspersed with domestic policy.
Interspersed.
It's impossible to really look at trade. It's, well, what is that? Foreign policy or domestic? Both. China, foreign, domestic. When we
is China part of America? Thanks, Rudy.
continue this, we'll talk about higher taxes and more regulation and no fracking. Go back to the domestic aspect of climate change. The continued censorship that we're going to see because the big tech companies are now empowered to do it by
shutting, all those people being censored for yelling fire in a crowded theater.
This president.
How do you know it's not part of the movie?
Who they elected.
I won't forget the towels I read, but thank you for reminding me.
Probably
Of Allison, Rudy is always still
many
talking.
more closed cities as a response. We'll be seeing the bailing out of failing states like California and New York, who are like New York City, my city, which is close to bankruptcy if it isn't bankrupt.
Why would that be? Oh, yeah, because all the businesses are shut down. There's no taxes coming in because nobody's making any money. By the way, Jerome Powell has already said, let me see if I can find this. This will be the closeout thing on it. I don't want to keep anybody long. Let's see. Jerome Powell, spending, I guess, prediction. Is he going to write? Let's see. I gotta see what that there was a specific phrase that he used. Oops, there it is. Spending. Let's see. 2020, I guess. 2020. Yeah, so Fed surveys, here you go. Whoop, there you go. This is what they were talking about. American scale up spending plans for 2021 Fed survey shows. So this is what the Fed has been talking about. And Jerome Powell made this thing that we're going to see this year, quote, an exorbitant excited spending sprees at the end, mid-year and later. All the people who've been like wound up, can't go anywhere, can't shop in person, group shopping, going to actual stores. Once people have gotten the vaccine, they feel safe to go out again. There's going to be this trickle, and then it's going to be a stampede for people to go out, go to concerts, go to eat in restaurants. It's going to balloon quicker, and all the stories mid to late summer and certainly into the fall and into Christmas will be about how people are like jumping into the economy with both feet again. This is a huge, they know this is coming. Well, this is in relation to COVID, Rexmo. This is basically talking about how once it's dealt with. So in November, they said expected it to rise 3.7% over the next 12 months. Results from their monthly survey of consumer. It's a 3% increase expected the prior month. They're like, because people are saying over the next year they're going to do more of this. The jump was driven primarily by response with annual incomes under $50,000. So people with lower incomes are going to be spending more money once things go back to normal because they're going to go splurge. They're going to go out and eat and go do things with friends. They're going to have drinks and go to a club and like all the extra spending that people do when they go out and do stuff. Once we're vaccinated and everybody feels safe to go back out, it's going to be a bull rush. And next, I'm calling it that next Black Friday will be one of the biggest Black Fridays in history. Expect that whole weekend to be completely insane. Because once we've gotten through this, there's all this pent-up desire. People will be doubling up on Christmas in person. They may not even buy, but maybe a third more than they did this year, but everybody will be doing it. Yeah, the 20s are going to be crazy post-COVID. Lots of people aren't going to get the vaccinations, and there will be issues with that. But a growing number will, and the people who don't will, the clogging of hospitals will be seen as a factor of not getting vaccinated, not because there's, no one has a vaccine in their system. Nobody's got one in play like right now that keeps the number down. So hospitals will not be overwhelmed the way they are because the vast majority of people, a certain number, will have gotten at least some immunity from it. So this is expected this year. I get vaccinated tomorrow, nerves. Well, good for you, lock them all up. If you have any, come back tomorrow and tell us how it went. I'm very curious, really, what your experience is. If there was any, if you had any secondary symptoms, any of that stuff. Glastonbury's been, a lot of things have been canceled that will open up, by the way. You're going to hear a lot of things that, had to happen in the spring. They're not going to happen. But a lot of the things that are normally happening in the summer and fall, there's a lot of tiptoeing around that. You'll start seeing as people start getting vaccinated and it starts gearing up over the next 2 months especially. The next 90 days are crucial. And the Biden administration's having a real plan and a real strategy to help the states coordinate getting enough of the vaccine, getting enough people to have it. All the people who will take it will create a wall of immunity against all the people who won't and are dicks about it or anti-vaxxers and blah, blah, blah. That's always been a factor. But it will... Those are also the most productive people. Those are also the people who spend the most money. Those are also the most engaged humans. People who hang out a lot more and go in groups or whatever tend to be more people who will... It will outweigh it, 60-40. That's 60% of society who's going to get it to protect themselves, especially as there's faster versions of it and people will start recognizing the danger of it. As that happens, those people are going to feel freer over time as we see the restrictions and limitations slowly be lifted, talking about April, mid-May, to the point where if the goal, I think, and this is my own prediction, by the way, for the Biden administration, is that their goal for total opening is summer break. That if they can slowly track back schools to being slightly open, and then by the beginning of what we know is the summer school break, that if they can if all things are open and normal again, there will be such an infusion of money into the economy and just excitement to be involved in doing things that in and of itself will start patching a lot of the holes financially and dealing with all that. We'll still have debt from it, but it won't be, a permanent gap. I'm telling, yeah, and I'll be doing my Hug the Patrons tour, the Patreon. Absolutely. Know it, get it, understand it. Yeah, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is a part of that. They're also counting on that as well, the volume of them available. But this exuberant spending that's going to be coming is going to be a major factor. And it's going to make Rudy very mad.
We'll see abortion until the second before birth.
Well, what? Well, what? We'll see abortions until the second before birth. No, we won't. That's murder by everyone's standard. A viable fetus. There's no optional, literally when you have the abortions a second before birth, that's because it's a non-viable fetus born with no heart. Once it detaches from the umbilical, it will die. It's killing the mom. Those kind of things. This has nothing to do with, you know what? I don't think I want to be pregnant anymore. The way these people must think about women, I mean, they would have to be to justify their behavior towards them, right? Because if you allow yourself to think that women deal with pregnancy that way and are that ilk, and that's a normal thing, and that's what they seek and want, then of course sexually assaulting them when they're underage, they're not only animals, they're violent, they're bad, they need a beating. That's basically his argument. I mean, it's gross. It's a story they tell everybody, but yeah.
And then we even have a governor in Virginia that thinks maybe you can get a few minutes after.
No, it isn't. You discuss what's going to happen and whether or not you resuscitate a baby that's born without lungs. Whether you try to give it chest compressions, even though it's not going to live, simply because you're forced to by the state, even though it causes the child pain and is futile. Listen to what he actually said. He's talking about Governor Northam. This is gross. This is the Terry Schiavoing of abortion. Let's be abundantly clear. If you remember the Terry Schiavo thing, they were like, she's alive and this guy's going to pull the plug and and everybody's like, the doctor's like, she's brain dead. These are automatic reflexes. There is literally, and then they did an autopsy after she passed and her brain was just jelly. It was her spine reacting. It was gross. It was sad. It was heartbreaking. They're just taking that and doing that. It's so nasty.
And a lot of other policies. So we'll discuss those domestic policies.
Yeah, that's a domestic policy. We're going to, it's Biden signed an executive order. Babies can be aborted up to a second before birth. It's a Catholic thing, I think. I don't know.
Either in the next episode or the one right after that.
Yeah, don't wait too long. I'm waiting. I need to hear it.
Depending on the things that come up. But this is a basic review.
Yeah, depending on it. By the way, Rudy, nothing's coming up. I mean, the impeachment, but you can't be a part of that because you're a co-defendant.
Of foreign policy. And we continue to watch it. And we will, meaning Rudy's Common Sense is going to be putting specific emphasis on China. And we expect, in the early part of this year, to do some major pieces on China so that you become...
Yeah, it's going to be great. Yeah, I can't wait. I look forward to it. As the Chinese would say, 很有意思, very interesting. I want to hear Rudy's take on China. No, I don't. I couldn't be less interested. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. He's not going to know what he's talking about. He's going to hear a bunch of shit, and then he's going to regurgitate it here between cigar ads. It's dumb.
Better educated about it. They are...
When you're... What? When you're what, son? What was that? What was that, jackass? What'd you say?
Everybody's common sense is going to be putting specific emphasis on China. And we expect, in the early part of this year to do some major pieces on China so that you become better educated about it.
Okay, good. You're going to educate me in the early part of this year. Clock's ticking, asshole.
They are the only country in the world that can challenge us. Russia is the size of a state. China
Oh, is it now?
has the capacity to match us. Can't happen.
No, they can't. They can't. First of all, they don't have 1 billion people. It's closer to 600 million. Secondly, they have, when you have even that many people and the economy that they have, it is just as hard for them to operate and function as any other country, but it's magnified by volume.
For the good of the world, it can't happen. Otherwise, we're going to have a leading country in the world that doesn't seem to mind killing little girl babies.
Jesus Christ. Holy hell. Honest to God, what the fuck is the matter with you? We're going to have a leading country in the world that doesn't mind killing little girl babies. Well, I am more concerned about you trying to fuck one than I am about the Chinese trying to kill one from a political, governmental position. You utter creep.
Can't have that.
No, we can't, because it's not gonna, because you're talking out of your ass. Per usual.
So I look forward to talking to you in a few more days and continuing to explore these policies and many, many others. And I thank you very, very much for joining me.
What a waste of time. Jesus Christ. It was like a robocall. That was friggin', I can't even, let me get this. I'm not here. There you go. I got to sign off and go work. I'm going to go shoot some more sketches. I adore you guys. I'll talk to you later. Yeah. I went a little longer than I even wanted to. Oh, God. Like, one of these days on Hal's Uncommon Sense, I'll run you guys through my experience of being in China and what it was like over there. And as a big fan of a lot of peoples of the world, but not necessarily their governments, I have a particular hostility to when we talk about China does this, Iran does this, Russia does this, when oftentimes it's the governments and a lot of the, in the most egregious countries in the world, the governments themselves are more dislocated from the people when they do the things that we despise on the world stage. So having that conversation is always tough. So the Chinese government, the Russian government, the American government, not even the American government in some case, Putin's administration, Trump's administration. I think it's better to talk about it in those terms because a lot of people will talk about stuff the CIA has done or the FBI has done when it was run by people like Hoover and George H.W. Bush. So when people are like, the CIA did this, the CIA did that, the CIA did... No, CIA is a tool. It matters who you put in charge of it. And a lot of people complaining about it as an overarching problem by itself want to sidestep the fact that they voted for Republicans who put people in charge of it, like the Pompeos of the world, who use it as a weapon to destroy people instead of as a protection element of our national security. Period. It matters who runs things. So when we talk about Iran, and you remember what Iran was like in the 60s and 70s, and it could be again, then you got to stop talking about the Iranians in comparison to Iran as a state. And that's increasingly important. That's going to be a big deal over the next 4 years especially. Thank you. Sorry, I missed that. Just rolled. That was Dustin. Thank you, Dustin. I appreciate you guys. I'm going to go shoot some stuff. I'm a little behind, I got to admit, but because I have too many ideas. Yeah. Jason Charles Miller, he and I did a copy of Going Blind together. That was he and I. So, I think that was just we always have a running thing with Jamie in there. Let me see if I can. I don't know if anybody's around. Nope, everybody's off. Or otherwise, I would raid. But I will see you guys come tomorrow. And take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. And I'll see you at the regular time, which is 3 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow. Rest well and have fun. And it's going to be okay. And smile. And if you're a Q or a maggot and I didn't pay any attention to you today, it's because you're boring.